Happy Monday, degenerate gamblers. Welcome back to the Die Hard MMA podcast. Your host, as always, your boy Clint, rocking the baby blues. We got a winning week under our belt this week on a pay-per-view, no less. You guys know I've been getting whooped for about a year straight, and I never do well on pay-per-view cards. So to end the L streak and to get a win on a pay-per-view card, your boy's feeling good today. How's everybody doing in the chat? We've got the Grateful Dude, Salt Dirt in the house, Aaron Harlack. We've got Andrew. We've got Louis Mack Jr., Glenn Bot 5000, my guy Nonstop, Philly, Local Man Shakes Fist in the house. Welcome back, Dylan. We've got, that's about it. Everyone's starting to roll in here. What's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for being here on a Monday. We are coming right back to you. And as always, big pay-per-view card. We're all pumped up. We're all hyped. We got some prospects. We got a gold belt on the line. Next week, we all dive straight into the dumpster, baby. Feet first. This card is trash, but it does not matter. We are here to try and break down every single fight on this card to help you find a way to make some money betting on it if you are degenerate enough to do so. And you know, most fight cards, there's one or two fights where we're like, you know, there's a lot of other offerings. You probably shouldn't bet this one because there's other spots. That's this whole card. The entire card, if they were on other fight cards, would be the ones you avoided. So we really got to dig deep if we want a piece of action on this card. And I may have already pulled the trigger on at least one spot, but we'll get into that, won't we? Welcome in this week's guest, your favorite, my favorite, one of the OG spots here on the Die Hard MMA podcast, our Uncle Weezy. What's going on, buddy? How you doing today?
I'm doing all right, man. You know, Brady and I, we broke down this card last night on Stat Diggers. It is a dumpster fire. It's awful. You know, it's awful from top to bottom, but we always say the same thing. I mean, I have fun when I make money. You know, I have fun when I make money. I enjoy watching all the fights, but, you know, some weeks, you know, you lose money, and those are shit fights. And some weeks you make money, and those are great fights because they went the way you thought they were going to go. So, you know, we can make this into a great card. All we got to do is find some winning spots to bet on. We cash those bets on Saturday, and then we're going to talk so well about Priscilla Cachoeira versus Josiane Nunes. We're going to be beaming about what a great fight Josias Musasa versus Carlos Vera was. God help us. So, Clint, we got some work to do, man. We got to dig through this dumpster. We got to get stinky. We got to get dirty. You know, we got to, it's going to be rough, but if we can find those needles in the haystack, those beautiful pieces of garbage that are in that dumpster that are still usable, that we can cash at the bookies window on Saturday, we're going to have some fun watching these shit fights, my friend.
We're going full hobo mode, Wheezy. If we can find a half-eaten burger, but there's a little bit of cheese hanging onto the edge of that, that's the one we're looking to snatch up out of this dumpster. I'm ready, baby. What's going on? We got some more people rolling in here. How's everybody doing? Thank you all so much for being here. Adolfo Martinez. We got Mystery Man K, Mac Jr. We've got everybody else kicking it. What's going on? Playing for real. How we doing? My guy, Mystery Man, saying you were wise to avoid the Brazilian lesbian with neck tattoo last week. Mystery Man, that is the best women's MMA betting angle, bar none, okay? The only thing that can potentially trump the Brazilian lesbian with a neck tattoo betting angle is raw physicality. That's all that fight came down to. Amanda Lemos was too freaking strong and Lucindo, you could see from the first time they tied up, man, that first shot Limos landed that opened up that busted cut under her eye. She went, oh shit. Like, this is a 23-year-old girl. You know what I mean? A lot of people forget that these young kids, Jon Jones set the bar. Okay. And it's actually funny. I don't remember who it was, but shout out to whoever tried to hit me with this one last week. Somebody told me Jon Jones was UFC champion at 23, man. And I was like, are we really using that for an argument? Like, how many 23-year-olds have we seen in mixed martial arts these days who live up to that? He's a one of one. As much as I hate Jon Jones, you got to nod to him in that area that no one else is touching that record. And these days, MMA is so much more intense. It's so much more like boiled down to a science. I'm going to have a hard time believing that any 23-year-old is capable of taking gold in the modern day of MMA. So no, like that is not an option here in this spot. If someone is 23 and Weezy, they get to the point where they're fighting in the contender circle, or they get to the point where they're challenging for a title, it's fade mode, because I refuse to believe anybody special until they prove to me otherwise. So I've been on Lucindo. You get to that high point and then you gotta jump off sometimes. And it's unfortunate, but at 23, I mean, she'll take 6 months off, bounce back, and whoop some ass the next time we see her. So I'm not saying it's the end of her or anything like that. It just, this was the perfect spot, I felt like, to go ahead and take a stab against her.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I had Lemos as my dog of the week. I thought that, and I didn't see the fight going that way, but from what everyone was telling me, Lucinda was just going to ragdoll her on the mat, and I'm like, okay, maybe she had some success against Marina, but Marina's a noodle, and Marina doesn't hit like Amanda Lemos does. Amanda Lemos hits like a dude. So I really thought that she was going to be able to maybe even find a finish in that fight. But she got the win. We cash a plus money ticket there. So, and my biggest bet of the night was on Josh Van. And that young man is on a trajectory straight to the top 5 of that division. He's a real athlete, real conditioning. His takedown defense and get up game are both excellent. And that pressure, the volume, the heavy hands, I'm a big fan of Josh Van, and he made me some money last night too.
Beautiful, Weezy. Beautiful. I was on the other side, kind of, on that one. I played the +3.5 spread on Ray. I just thought it was going to be a classic Josh Van fight where he lost the first round and then couldn't get the finish. So I was thinking we'd steal one and cash an easy ticket at a better price tag. But that's 2 weeks in a row where I have missed generational wealth spots. Weezy, JJ Aldrich and Josh Van were both free money the last 2 weeks in a row, and very reasonable prices. So props to you for hitting that one. And we'll keep our eyes open for those kind of spots right now, because they seem to be kind of popping up where the hype is getting a little, horse ahead of the cart in some of these spots that we need to watch out for here. Very, very happy to hit on Ignacio Bahamondes. Weezy, I kept it high and tight, and I took some submission sprinkles on Ray. I was debating, and this is like the behind the camera stuff that the people they'll shit on you for, because if you admit it, you're making shit up, right? But this is honest to God facts. I was looking at Ray sub and Bahamondes sub, and I'm like, you know what? I'm keeping it tight this week. I'm only picking one. And I went with Ray instead of going with Bahamondes because I felt like the grappling edge was going to be larger. Even someone who thought that Bahamondes was going to win the fight against Jalen Turner, I didn't think he was going to completely cop out the way that he did, looking to hang it up and take off the gloves. Like that was not ever in the books. I thought it would be like, if anything, it'd be like a late finish. You know what I mean? Like beat him up in round 3. He doesn't quite have it to keep going. I didn't think it was going to be a round 1, triangle from guard type of situation. That was wild.
Yeah, if you're one of those guys who's saying that that's how you saw it taking place, it's like bullshit. Show me the video before the fight took place.
Right?
He didn't have triangle from guard for Bahamondes. Stop bullshitting us.
Picture it didn't happen.
But both of those guys got really good submission games, and I felt like submission was an option. I didn't see it happening like that.
Exactly.
I felt like somebody might land a big shot, and then there might be a club and sub scenario, because both of those guys have got really good front chokes, but. Yeah, triangle. I didn't. That one it wasn't in my cards, man. I didn't see that one coming.
Right there with you, man. Right there with you. And you know what? We've got a couple of people mentioning my call on the Francis Marshall situation. Dodged a bullet there, Wheezy. I told everybody on my show, I went, you know what? Everybody's on Marshall, and I get it. I see the vision. I was like, it's going to be the one where everyone ends up having a value loser. Is like, he's going to look like he should have been the side, and then they're just not going to give it to him. And it's damage over control. Close fight, competitive fight. One guy was bleeding from the mouth, and that's what'll swing it. So I feel bad for everybody that lost on that one. I got to go back and rewatch it. Honestly, guys, the preliminary portion of that card, this past weekend, Weezy, I went out to go see my grandpa. So we were out in California, and I was with family, and we were doing dinner. So I didn't get to hone in on these fights. I didn't even get to watch the Bruno and Armin Petrosyan fight at all. So I looked up a couple of highlights, and I only watched a few of them. So I will have to go back, you guys, and completely dig into those fights and rewatch some of those. But that's also why you didn't see any live bets from me, because I didn't have access to live betting, unfortunately, for this card. But much like my Friday show, Weezy, I don't know if you saw my Friday show. We literally drove out to California, and I did my Friday show at midnight to make sure my people got their undefeated post weigh-in show video. My ass just got home. You guys, I just drove 6 hours home from California. My grandpa lost his wife a couple years ago, so he lives out there by himself, and we take a family pilgrimage to go visit every so often, to go hang out with him and stuff like that. So it's a rough week for a content creator to come back to this trash card and have to somehow squeeze in the study required to do this show, and having just gotten off the bus. So bear with me, you guys. If I get a little tongue-tied, if I rely on Uncle Weezy a little more than normal this week, that's why.
Yeah, and we already did Brady and I already did the hard work of going through this one last night. So we've got our ideas. But it's a rough one, man. You've got to be a little bit contrarian to find value this week. And you know what? It's not the worst time to do it, because these favorites that are juiced to the tits right now, they're not the kind of fighters you lay that kind of juice on. So there's gonna be some opportunities on the underdog side this week. We got to find the right ones.
Absolutely, Wheezy. I was just kind of, and I was gonna say I was talking to so and so, but I wasn't. I was just kind of sitting there thinking to myself, one of these fighters is gonna drop the ball. There's gonna be a bomb this weekend. I can feel it already. Somebody is just going to get smoked that nobody thinks should go down. And I can't wait to dig into it, man. You know what? On that note, Wheezy, let's just get straight on into the dang thing. Welcome in, everybody. We've already got the live viewers chunking up here, 140 of you tuning in. Do me a favor, hit the like button, please. If you're on social media, give this a share. Copy and paste the YouTube link, guys. Call your mom. Get everybody on for this episode of the Die Hard MMA podcast. It's not a sexy week, but we're going to do our best to bring you a sexy show, Uncle Weezy and I. Let's get into it. First fight of the night, you have got Yuneisy Duben taking on Carli Judice, women's MMA, right off the bat here for you guys on this one. And Weezy, I had to actually kind of dig my heels in here and do some legwork on Carli Judice. I really forgot about Carli. I feel kind of bad about it too, because after I really got in there and took a look at her, I forgot how much I like her as a prospect. It's pretty crazy at 3-2 to be in the UFC first and foremost. Terrible record, but she's 26 years old. Her fight on Contender Series and her UFC debut both went to split decision. So it's one of those fighters where, man, she's right there. We could be talking about a 5-0 undefeated prospect in another world if you've just got one judge looking at this thing a little sideways. You watch the fight back with Gabriela Fernandez, and boy, did that one age well. I mean, Gabby went on to go ahead and take Kong Wang's head off, so kind of a little bit better in hindsight, looking at the way she fought that one. Ernesto Carrascate, she's looking pretty good so far in the UFC, right? Just got a big win over Nora Cagliari. Doesn't look too bad herself. So there's a little bit to wiggle here on this 0-2 start in this 3-2 record. I love her footwork. I love her speed. She's a little pillow fisty wheezy, as a lot of the women in these weight classes are. She doesn't have big power or anything like that, but the volume, the pace, she got chin checked by Gabriela Fernandez, and heck, Kong Wang couldn't take those shots. She was able to kind of hit the reset button. She was busted up early, wheezy. Gabriela had her face mangled and she was bleeding in the first round, within 2 minutes. And she was able to kind of take a deep breath, reset, and keep on going, which props to her, you know, for how young she is and for how little MMA experience she is. That was kind of a really good sign, in my opinion, from her. Now, her opponent, Duben, 6-0, undefeated, 28 years old. This is her UFC debut off Dana White's Contender Series, Weezy, and she lit the world on fire. Like, her Dana White's Contender Series fight, she's this small, thick, and coming from a guy that's got a little extra to lose, it's nothing but love, but little chubby. Like, she was not in shape really for that Dana White's Contender Series fight, and she fought an absolute monster. The dude across the cage from her was just marching her down, and I say that very intentionally. This woman looked like a man, like veins popping out everywhere, juice to the gills, and just completely disrespected her, came forward trying to bully her physically, and somehow she kept a cool head and sat down on the most beautiful overhand punch you have ever seen. I mean, if they made a movie about her life, it would have been like a slow-mo moment where they show the overhand slinging over and everyone in the crowd doing this. And they just clocked her right on the jaw. And we're talking, Weezy, out cold. Toes curled, eyes rolled back, trying to get it back, looking up at the ceiling. Dana White freaking out and like screaming at her through the cage, "We're not waiting. Welcome to the UFC. That was incredible." Like, I mean, he didn't even wait for the end of the show. He's telling her right then and there through the cage that she's getting signed. Like, this chick has got some serious power. Now, she's fought almost nobody, right? Shannon Clark was the first decent opponent she had ever faced in her entire career. You go back one fight, and this Ingrid Garcia girl, she's 2 weight classes out of her depth. She's tiny. Like, both her legs were about the size of one thigh for Duben. Like, she was not doing anybody any favors in that spot. So Duben's exciting. The highlight reel is fun, but she's a little low volume. And as a rule of thumb, you don't really want to rely on power in women's MMA. It just isn't a thing that you see these crazy knockouts like that. Now, there's rare circumstances where you get someone who actually can rely on that regularly. I don't know if Duben is someone that we want to just jump and say that she's got God-given, incredible, insane power, and she's going to be a wrecking ball, you know, all that kind of stuff. I like Duben. She's fun. Part of me wants to bet on her just because I want to be on the train, right? If she goes off on like an Alex Pereira-esque run where she's just knocking these chicks' heads off left and right, I want to be the one with 5 tickets in a row where Duben, I said I was right on Duben, but I can't, Weezy, I can't. We've got a minus 355 on Carli Judice, plus 280 on Duben. I think Judice is the right side. I wouldn't be shocked if it's kind of your classic women's MMA just decision where she's clearly the better fighter. Duben can't close the distance. Duben can't do enough. She can't do anything. And we just get a hand raise at the end of 15 minutes where it kind of starts the night off rough. But I'm also kind of praying that Duben just is that chick and comes out with another highlight reel. That'd be fun.
Yeah, this one is, you know, it's a tough fight to cap because we don't really know if Yuneisy Duben's any good or not. I mean, like if you think about it, when you get priced the way that she was priced against Shannon Clark, you're not good. You suck. You know, if you're being priced as a plus 500 underdog against Shannon Clark, you suck at MMA. And she landed a big overhand right, got a big win. Dana got his ass up out of the seat, went nuts. And that's a natural reaction when you see a massive underdog come through in that fashion too, with a spectacular knockout.
I think they said she was the biggest underdog on Dana White's Contender Series history.
To win, maybe
correctly.
Yeah, to win, to
win, to actually.
Yeah. So, you know, I mean, spectacular, right? But like this Carli Judice, I mean, like her last fight against Gabriela Fernandez, right? Gabriela Fernandez, you could put her in the cage with all 6 of these hoes that Duben beat in the same night, and she would wipe the floor with all of them. You know, these girls are all 0-0. You know, even to get to your 5th fight and still be fighting girls that are 0-0 is a massive red flag. It's a really, really bad red flag. So she had one great moment here, but Carli's been in the cage that we know of 30 minutes, 15 with Cortes-Acosta, 169 significant strikes landed. 15 minutes with Gabriela Fernandez, who's a very good kickboxer. 168 significant strikes landed. She's the real deal. She's tough. She's got excellent cardio. She's got that dog in her, and she can keep up a pace for the full 15 minutes. I don't think Duben can keep up that pace. And I think that even if Duben does land big on Carli, Carli's not going anywhere. So I think that this is going to be, she's going to really just put her through the wood chipper for 15 minutes here. I think Duben's going to get served. I don't think it's going to really be that close of a fight. Carli's proven it to me at this level against solid UFC level competition, where she's showing all the hallmarks of things that you need at this level in order to be able to win fights in this division. Because overhand right knockouts where your opponent winds up sleeping in the women's flyweight division is not a way that you want to be winning fights, because it very rarely happens. So like if you're relying on power in this division, chances are you're not going to go very far, because tough girls like Carli Judice with phenomenal conditioning, a good chin, and really a big-time competitive spirit. She's a lifelong athlete. She's fairly new to MMA, but she's clearly been competing at a high level for her whole life. She was a softball player before she made the switch to MMA. So, yeah, I think Carli's going to get the job done here. I think she's going to make it look pretty easy. I think she's just going to beat her up and maybe finish her late or win a unanimous decision.
Okay. Now, there is a comment in the chat, Streamline Gaming, who I think, Weezy, have you looked into this? Because I was ready to kind of circle it back around and end with this. Did you look into where Duben has been hanging out and getting her training work done lately?
No, I have no idea.
She's training with Rose and Miranda Maverick. She's
kidding.
up in the mountains getting work with high-level professional champion caliber fighters. And she looks in shape. Let me pull up a photo, actually, because I can do that since I'm fancy on stream that way, you guys. She looks like she's done some serious work when it comes to her physicality, her cardio. Like I mentioned before, if you go back and you run the Dana White's Contender Series tape, again, not trying to body shame anybody or anything like that, but she's a little on the thicker side, right? Like now, flash warning, everybody. She is lean and mean, and you can see some abs, and she's been training up at altitude, and she's doing cardio. And man, when you're wrestling with someone like Miranda Maverick and you're getting the work in with somebody like Rose Namajunas, you got to feel like that improvement's going to come, and it's going to come relatively quickly. So again, not saying I'm ready to pull the trigger, Wheezy, but if she does have that God-given power, if she does have that God-given strength, she's in the right camp to really take full advantage of it. I'm not in the business of laying minus 400 on women's fighters, especially. Yeah. And no, I know we said that at her stage, at her age, 15 minutes, 2 times is a benefit. You need that cage time. But if you've gone to back-to-back split decisions and taken the L in both of them, I ain't laying minus 400. Yeah. That should be illegal.
Yeah. Yeah, this card's full of fights like this. Carli should win. We've seen 30 minutes of her at this level against real fighters. And, if Yuneisy isn't getting an early knockout here, what happens in round 2? What happens in round 3 against a girl that's going out there and landing over 50 significant strikes per round? Exactly. We know what's going to happen. She's going to wilt. She's probably going to look worse and worse as the fight goes on, because we've never really seen Duben even go into a third round in her professional career. And these are against 0-0 girls that are, seamstresses, and cashiers. So, against Carli Judice, I think it's going to be Carli, but, the line is ridiculous. So I'm not getting anywhere near this one.
Yeah. I'm also going to pick Carli. I'm also going to pick Carli by decision. And yes, Dan, by split. But you guys, as always, I just want to go ahead and preface this. We're spending way too long, first and foremost, on this greasy-ass women's MMA fight when we've got a whole card to talk about. But this is a betting show, so I will use the much-hated line. It's dog or pass. You can't possibly lay this number. So I'm going to pick Carli Judice to go ahead and get her UFC dub here in this spot. But the only way my money is going anywhere, Weezy, I've always said that if you think a fight's going to split decision, you should be betting the dog. Because if you really see the fight playing out that close and you're getting plus 300 on one of those sides of the coin, you're on the right side. All it takes is Sal D'Amato to have fallen asleep in the middle of round 2 for you to cash that ticket. So I'm tempted. I'll say that. I am tempted. But if anything, it would be a small bet. And I don't know that I am going to do that. I just got to win, guys. I would like to put a win streak together this week. So we're going to try and go back to back here. Maniac says plus 3.5 is plus 200 or something. Now that's wild because back-to-back split decisions, if you think she could win one round, even just with like a knockdown or something like that, plus 3.5 at a plus 200 price tag is insane. All right, guys, let's move it along. We got more trash women's MMA to talk about. Josiane Nunes takes on Priscilla Cachoeira, my girl, my zombie girl. Weezy, it's been a long time. Long-time listeners of the show will know my love affair with zombie girl Priscilla Cachoeira. We actually went on a nice little run with this chick sometime back, man. We got in on the Gina Mazzani knockout. We got her against Ji Young Kim. We got her against Ariane Lipski. Of course, I was not going to be siding with her against my girl Jillian Robertson, right? But the rest of them we actually did pretty well on. Now, she's fallen on tough times. Last couple of fights, dragged deep. Couple of big grapplers, big mauling physical chicks, Miranda Maverick, Jasmine Jasudavicius, back-to-back round 3 submission losses. You could just kind of see the wind coming out of her sails in those fights. She doesn't have good wrestling defense, Weezy. That's all it comes down to. She gets stuck on her back. And once you get her there, there's not a damn thing she can do. However, she never gives up. Like this, you guys, I've told you, I've shifted my opinion on how we deal with cheaters, right? We're betting money, all right? We're trying to win money. I'm not here to gatekeep you as a good person if I'm trying to win money on a bet. So she's exactly the kind of person you want to bet on, Weezy, because if she ain't cheating, she ain't trying. She tried to eye gouge my girl Jillian Robertson to defend the rear naked choke. She was grabbing the fence every single time Jazz and Miranda Maverick took her down. Like, they're not taking points for this stuff. So she has no problem getting a fistful of that fence trying to stay on her feet. And you get into round 2. And she comes out and she stomps her way in front of you and starts looking for knees and elbows, Weezy. You get to round 3 and she's exhausted and her face is mangled. And she comes forward in 3. She throws a elbow like this. Yeah. This chick don't quit, okay? She could not get TKO'd by Jasmine, who was raining down ungodly ground and pound in the 3rd round of that fight. She had to give up and go for a sub because you can't knock her out. She is made out of granite. I love the chin on Priscilla Cachoeira. Josiane Nunes, better known as Armathy. I don't know. Weezy, have you watched Rick and Morty? Do you know the reference?
Yeah, I watched it, but Armathy, I've heard. I don't know that particular. Oh yes, yeah, I love that. Oh yeah, he just smokes everybody in that cage. Yeah.
I need the clip. I wish I had the clip. Yeah, they like inject him with the DNA of like a cage fighter who lives on like this post-apocalyptic planet. Yes. And the only thing he gets is the damn arm, and the arm just massacres everybody, and he's just along for the ride. That's Josiane Nunes. The only other comparison that I can make is that episode of Family Guy where Quagmire finds out about internet porn and jerks. He disappears for like 2 months and comes out looking like this. But she spams left overhands, Weezy. That's all she does. She comes forward, sticks her head straight down, and throws an overhand left.
Yeah.
And they absolutely tried to rob my girl Jacqueline Cavalcanti in her last fight. Somehow a judge gave it to her. Freaking Nunes. Just disgusting. I mean, she got pieced up that entire fight, and they tried to rob me of my anchor play that night. It really upset me. But looking back at Josiane Nunes, we all got a little hyped up because she does have some crazy power, right? She gets to the UFC and she just obliterates Bea Malecki. But then you kind of look back at these names, and Bea Malecki, she is terrible. She got cut pretty quick. Ramona Pascal, she was terrible. She got cut. Zara Farron, she was big. She was terrible. She got cut, right? Like, those are the wins that she has. And then when she fought anybody half worth their salt, Chelsea Chandler is barely a UFC fighter. She lost to her, and she got pieced up by Jacqueline Cavalcanti for 15 minutes, no problem. Weezy, this is a fight where I think they're giving Priscilla Cachoeira a fight where she doesn't have to worry about the takedown. If anything, Priscilla might be the one who can offensively wrestle in this fight. Crazy enough to say, they're mirrors of each other. Neither of them have good takedown defense. Neither of them have a great stand-up game. I will tell you, though, Priscilla's making improvements at the ripe old age of 36, because when Miranda Maverick took her down, she did scoot her back to the cage. She did try to wall walk up the cage. She didn't have the technical ability to actually pull it off. But against someone like Josie, she can get up. If Josie tries to wrestle Priscilla will get up, I promise you. And then we're talking about a fight on the feet. I just think Cachoeira has more weapons, Weezy. We're talking overhand left versus everything else on the table. Give me the dog, Weezy. This is already going to be my Link Memorial Dog of the Week. We're going back to Zombie Girl. You give me Zombie Girl versus Striker, and I'll take it almost every time. I love this chick. I love her power. I love how big she is. I love how physical she is. I love how durable she is. I love that she likes to hurt people, and I love that she'll cheat for me to win this fight if she needs to. So I'm calling a step-in knee TKO, Weezy. Josie's going to look for that overhand left at the wrong time, and Priscilla's just going to step in and give her the old, you guys can't see it, but I'm throwing a knee up down here. I say it's a knee TKO round 2. What are you doing here, Weezy?
Yeah, this one is going to be such a fun fight because neither one of these ladies really wrestles. They've got 15 combined fights at the UFC level, and they've gotten one takedown between the two of them. And like you said, Nunes kind of comes forward, throws the head down, and just throws that overhand right and the left. And Priscilla Cachoeira keeps that right hand up by her chin, and she just throws it right down. I mean, just over and over again. I remember one time her putting together a 9-punch combination where it was just the overhand right over and over. She didn't even put one left in there. It was just a 9-punch overhand right combination. She just has no chill. You know, she has no process to her game. Neither one of them do. You know, they both just kind of come forward swinging hammers, trusting their chin, trying to beat the shit out of their opponents. And I don't really see either one of these ladies kind of having a process here, because Josiane Nunes never had a process other than me take head off, you know, like that. and with Cachoeira, it's kind of the same thing. You know, even somebody like Ariane Lipski, who's known for being a powerful striker, a Muay Thai kickboxer, you know, Ariane was like, oh, she wants to bang with me? I'll bang with her. Big mistake. Cachoeira took her head off. So
the Queen of Violence died that night.
Yeah, dude. You know what I'm thinking here is even though Josie is extremely durable, and even though Cachoeira, she's been finished 4 times, but they're all by submission. You know, she's never really getting finished, you know, with punches, and maybe with ground and pound, but that's not going to be Nunes. She's not going to ground and pound anybody. No. So I think maybe instead of going fight doesn't go to decision or under 2.5 rounds, just go fight doesn't start round 2. Because if it doesn't happen early, it's probably not going to happen. But I see this being a complete and total car crash. Neither one of these ladies has any skill at all. They're both power punchers that are just looking to take their opponent's head off. Cachoeira, 7-0 to the KO. Nunes, 7-0 to the KO, right? Neither one of these ladies has ever won a fight by submission. And, you know, Cachoeira's got some decisions. Nunes has some decisions, but let's face it, you know, against who, right? These are just the, you know, all right, we have to give somebody the win here after 3 rounds of horrible MMA. And Cachoeira's gotten 5 and Josie's gotten 3. So, yeah, I think Cachoeira is probably the play here, because you can't lay juice on Nunes, because Cachoeira is just a bigger version of Nunes.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
You know, 5 inches taller. You know, but Nunes is a little bit younger, but they're both just, you know, murderous power punchers. Somebody's going to land a big
33
shot.
33 and 36, right? So it's not like an age gap worth writing home about.
I got Nunes down as 31, actually.
Oh, is she 31?
I got her as born in 1993, and Cachoeira is born in 1988. I always go by the UFC stats birthdays.
I will have to update that one. I thought she was 33. That's my bad.
They can lie to Tapology, but they can't lie to the UFC, because the UFC is writing them checks.
That's true.
So, like, a lot of times when you see an age difference between Tapology and UFC stats, go with the UFC stats because these ladies don't want their checks bouncing.
That makes sense. Always follow the money. And I got one last little tidbit for you guys. Like we talked about on the last one, Wheezy, I got a little nugget to share for you. My girl Cachoeira has been training with the real Nunes leading up to this fight. She can't grapple. She can't defend a takedown. She goes to MMA Masters, and you've got Mr. and Mrs. Nunes in the house training you for this fight. How do you not rock with the dog? She's bigger, she's taller, she's longer. I will dare to say that she has more power, and now she's got a far better corner and training situation going on here. It's Priscilla Catch beating season, Wheezy. My zombie girl is going to come out here and wreck this chick. And on top of that, I don't even know who you can point to as far as Josiane Nunes to having tested her chin. I know she's never been knocked out, Wheezy. I know she's never been knocked out. Cal Conti's a finesse fighter. She's not going to knock anybody out. I tried to bet her by knockout, and I've donated because I kept thinking it's going to come. It never comes. Chelsea Chandler, she's barely holding on to a UFC roster spot. Had to wrestle her ass off that night for dear life. Zara Farron, again, sucks. Ramona Pascal, she ain't knocking anybody out. And then Bea Malecki, maybe on sheer size on the regional scene, but like she's literally a 2-1 fighter. So nobody has tested the chin of Josiane Nunes. And I've seen my girl Zombie take an absolute beating and say, let's go, bitch. So I am taking the chick who's willing to, I've proven she can take a punch and I know she'll come back from it. So with that kind of training, that's the side, guys. I got plus 165. I'm a little bit bummed, Wheezy, because this number was higher. I think she was a plus 180 before, which was insane. I got plus 165 and it's now down to about plus 155 in most places. So take a look, you guys. I'm not, on the run that I'm on, you guys know I'm not endorsing anybody tailing me or anything like that, but I think this thing is going to trend closer to Pick'em than it is to that number coming back. I think people are realizing that Priscilla is going to be the side here in this fight.
Cachoeira moving up to 135 after being at 125 for her whole career and missing weight there several different times. So, we could see even a much a less drained version of Priscilla in the cage. Somebody a little bit more willing to take a little bit of damage, and also somebody that could be performing at a higher level because she's not killing herself on the weight cut. Could be a good move up for her.
Absolutely. There will be blood. I don't know that, if she does one training camp with a good grappler, I don't know that that's enough for me to take her by sub. I still think she's going to prefer to work with her hands. And if there's a finish, it'll be a KO. Yeah, Mystery Man, I know we're still talking about this fight. My bad. Wheezy, we're 40 minutes in and we've covered 2 terrible women's MMA fights. But you guys, that's what you get. When you watch our shows, I know Wheezy's got his show with Brady, and this is the Die Hard MMA podcast. This is a terrible fight card that most of your friends and family are not going to bother tuning in for. We dug deep. We did the work. We did the research. You're coming here to find out about these fights and find an angle to bet on these things. That's what we're here for. So I know we talked a little bit too long, but we got to flex those muscles and show the work off, because otherwise, why the hell did I watch all that tape? Why did we even bother if we're just going to go, women, and move on? So let's get into the next fight. Next up, you guys, we've got André Lima taking on Daniel Barres. And I will be fully transparent with you here, guys. I very much underestimated André Lima. When he got bit, this is the guy that got bit and his opponent got immediately cut by the UFC. I felt like the tide of that fight was starting to shift a little bit. I thought I saw something, and I thought maybe he's a little gassy, Wheezy. I thought maybe his cardio doesn't quite check out, and I thought someone like Mitch Raposo would be able to back him up and use the wrestling and pressure him and pace him and wear him out and make him tired. And this is a spot where you could get this guy falling apart deeper in the fight. But he's only 26 years old. And his last 2 fights in a row, I've been nothing but impressed with the way he fights. He's another guy who does the pot shot style. So he's not high volume, but he's definitely not low volume. He's very selective with his strikes. It's a lot of power shots. And I really have started to kind of come around to that being a very solid style for MMA these days. I mean, that's how Francis Marshall got robbed in his last fight. That's how Daniel Marcos is greasing out some of these slightly closer fights and remains undefeated. Like, I actually think it's a solid style and it's working for people. And I think André Lima is a good example of it. So respect. You know, I'm going to stop talking trash about Lima unless I've got a real reason to think he's got a weakness. It was speculation. I was wrong. Daniel Barres, 17-6. He is 36 years old. So we've got a dreaded 10-year age gap coming into this fight here. He's 1-1 in the UFC. Basically almost sent Rafael Filo to the shadow realm. And when Filo said, okay, let's fight, bro, he completely collapsed. Like, Weezy, I actually will talk trash about Daniel Barres because this guy gets so hyped for a finish. He goes for the kill, and that's good, but he overextends, he gasses out, he puts way too much into it, and he just doesn't leave himself a backpack. Now, in his last fight, he's facing Victor Altamirano, who we know has absolutely no power. He hurt Victor early, and he was able to kind of stay within himself and recover and continue that fight. And he won a decision where a lot of people were expecting him to finish. But that's because pillow fist Victor Altamirano couldn't mount any offense coming back the other way. You're going to be that way against that particular guy, right? Daniel Barres really, he loves his right hand. He likes to dig that thing to the body. I love the way he attacks with that, but that's kind of his only weapon. And you can see him looking for his right hand in a lot of these spots where it's like, bro, I'm not trained in Muay Thai, and I see you looking for the right hand. So these fighters are going to know that that's what he's doing and that's what's coming. And frankly, I just think he's breakable, Weezy. I don't think he's built for this. I think Barres is a bad nail. I like Andre Lima in this spot, and I think that even though the line is very wide, I think he's a viable parlay piece. I think he'll kind of dig deep even if he gets hurt, and I can't say the same about Barres.
Couldn't agree more. With Lima here, I think that you got a guy who's low volume, but he doesn't waste any actions. I heard Cormier say that about him in his fight, and it's a perfect way to describe him because he is very low volume. But everything that he throws has a purpose. Everything he throws is with power. Great low leg kicks, great straight punches, great kicks to the body. He can switch stances and kind of just stay in whatever stance you're least comfortable dealing with. And he's got great weapons coming from both of those stances. He's a former 3-time Brazilian national kickboxing champion, and he's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt. And in his fights against Severino, where he got bit, and Raposo, we kind of saw him using his wrestling in reverse to keep fights standing so that he could win the minutes on the feet. And he was able to do that in both fights. In the Felipe dos Santos fight, in the second round, we saw Lima kind of get a body lock takedown, get on top, and win a bunch of minutes, land some really good ground and pound, and stay heavy on top. And then he kind of realized, oh, man, I can out-grapple this guy. Took him down again in the third round, got to his back, and damn near finished with the rear naked choke, right? And what do we see with Barres in that Filio fight? As soon as he landed a couple of big shots, he dropped Filio a couple of times, made Filio get back up. He wanted nothing to do with the ground game. Filio got in there, took one takedown, immediately finishes him on the ground. I think Lima's going to submit him, dude. I think he's going to submit him. Look at Lima's record.
I like it.
6 wins by knockout, 4 wins by decision. He's never submitted anybody. But Barres has been submitted in 3 of his 6 losses. We saw a massive hole in his grappling defense against Jafel Filio. But even though Filio's a better grappler than Andre Lima, look at Lima's skill on the ground in the Dos Santos fight. And I would say that Dos Santos is actually probably a little bit better of a grappler than Barres is. Barres isn't known for his grappling threat. He's known for having heavy hands and really good pocket boxing, right? But I think that Lima has better long-range weapons. I think that he can dominate the grappling exchanges of this fight. And because Barres has such heavy hands and because he's most dangerous on the feet, I think we're going to see an undefeated Andre Lima take this dude down, get to a dominant position. I think he's going to finish with submission. I played it for a quarter unit at plus 900. I think it's still available at plus 800. And even though it's never happened before, Lima's never won a fight by submission. I think he's going to submit this dude.
Wow. Weezy, I like the bold call. I will have to remind everybody that in the year of our Lord 2025, it has not been a fun time for undefeated fighters. So we're just going to need to watch these O's very closely this weekend. I don't think this is the one, though, Weezy. I'm with you. I think it's Lima. I think it's Lima all day. I will be very curious to see if I can find any evidence whatsoever that I can get there with that sub with you. But I think inside the distance is the way to go. A couple of people in the chat also talking about, I think the under is a great look in this fight. Agreed. Because Barres is going to get it done early, or he's going to pack up shop and go home. So if there's a decently priced 1.5, or, hopefully they give us a decently priced, doesn't go the distance, that would be the way that I could look. Because I could see Lima dragging this fight to the second or the third round before he really stepped on the gas.
Yeah, they got plus 140 right now on Bet Online for fight doesn't go to decision. I think that's very bettable. Yeah, plus
140 for doesn't go.
Yeah, and I bet it last time with the Barres Altamirano fight, and he was dropping Altamirano, man, like a bad habit in the first and second rounds. I think he might have even gotten him in the third round, late in the third round as well, man. He drops people regularly, but Altamirano doesn't have the kind of power that Lima does. And even though he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, I don't think that he's got quite the submission game that Lima does. We saw him in that Dos Santos fight look really good on the ground. So, I think that fight doesn't go at plus 140 is a pretty good look.
Yeah, and in my opinion, you look at the guys that Lima has beaten. I think they're looking at this over, going, well, his last two fights went to decision. Mitch Raposo is no bitch. He got subbed once, but his only other loss is by decision. And then Felipe Lima, the guy only had one loss when they fought, and he's only lost by decision as well. He's a shoot the box guy. Those guys don't go away. So I do think we're maybe getting a little bit of over bias because of André Lima's last couple of fights. Fight doesn't go the distance is maybe a beautiful way for us to look at this fight, Wheezy, and turn a big favorite, because we're still expecting Lima to get the win, right? Turn this big favorite into a plus money play just by going under, just by hoping somebody gets out of there. I like that.
Yeah, I think it's a solid play. I mean, these guys got 28 total fights as professionals. 20 of them have finished inside the distance. That's over 71%. And that fight doesn't go to decision at plus 140. You're paying about 42%. Not bad. Could be a bit of a discount here. A bit.
All right. I like it. Everybody do me a favor. Hit that like button. Support our guy, Wheezy. If you haven't followed him, give him a follow. And let's move on. Next fight up, you've got Josias Musasa, who I think might be the biggest favorite on the card here, Wheezy. And he's taking on Carlos Vera, the grapply, wily old veteran here. What a fight this is. Musasa making his UFC debut off Dana White's Contender Series. They call this kid the KO Wizard. And looking back at his tape, Wheezy, he is so raw. This kid is wild. I mean, there's some early Buckley in there. Right? Like the way he steps in and throws hooks and uppercuts, and I can kind of see a little bit of young Joaquin Buckley in this kid, but he's fought nobody, and he just bullies these guys. He bum rushes them and swings until somebody falls over. I don't think he's ready. I think he's way too green for the UFC. 2 inches taller, 5-inch reach advantage. Now, Vera, he's a 37-year-old man. This is an old dude. He lost to Katona on Dana White's Contender Series. Lost to Nakamura, which that's just... I know Nakamura is like the one guy that we can point to for road to UFC, but if you're losing to anybody road to UFC, that immediately, for me, just discounts you from somebody who I'm trusting with my money. Taekwondo style striking, lots of kicks, good teep, likes his spinning attacks, but he's a BJJ guy. He's a Ryan Hall BJJ guy. He will pull guard. He will butt scoot. Like, this guy will do whatever it takes to get you on the ground. Striker versus grappler, Wheezy. I mean, who's laying minus 750 on this kid?
People with problems, Clint.
Yeah.
And let me give me a second here. If you are laying minus 650 on this kid, it's time to stop gambling on MMA. Just stop it. He's terrible. He's absolutely terrible. He's bad. The second worst fighter in the division. It just so happens that he's fighting the worst fighter in the division. But if you are laying minus 650 on this fool, please get some help, because you need it badly.
What's up, my guy VB in the house? Love to see you here, buddy. Yeah, Wheezy. No, I'm right there with you. This is not a man who we should be laying that price tag on. I know there's the age gap. I know we're all hyped up off of his KOs and the highlight reel they're going to show, but like, I just can't, man. I could see this being a spot where he slips up and gets armbarred. You know, he like knocks the old man down, follows him to the ground, and then gets caught in a triangle. I can see it clear as day. We talked about a couple of these big favorites maybe being possible bed shitters, and this is the short list for me, Wheezy. Again, I have no interest in betting on Vera here, and that's kind of my issue. I will say that Musasa somehow manages to land that big shot and squeeze his way to another win here. But guys, please don't bet this fight. Like, I don't know how you're ever going to find a spot that makes sense or has the right price here, unless you are really ready to go to war with Vera and you want to take like a 15-1 sub prop. I'm sure the number's not even that good. So yeah, it's pass or pass, Wheezy. I'll say Musasa wins, but no, I'm not even saying dog or pass.
Dude, this fight is rough, dude. It's really rough because, I mean, these are probably the two worst fighters in the division. And it's not to say that Musasa can't be solid at some point, right?
Yeah, he's young.
But he's training out of Central Africa. You know, this kid is at a gym in the Congo right now that the Tapology crew can't even confirm exists. And you look at the names, you know, Gasmar Diata. Gasmar Diata had him in all kinds of problems. Gasmar Diata put him on his ass, had him in bad spots in the first round of that fight. You know, the Abdul Ghani Saber, that guy's from Iraq. You know, Marvin Malunas is a 4-4 fighter out of the Philippines that Kobe Thickness has a win over. You know, Musasa's, you know, and then he gets the win over Tanzalovi on Dana White's Contender Series. And hey, I mean, that's a great win. I mean, it's a great next step for his career, but he still kind of needs like 3 more regional scene wins where we see something out of him besides like the ability to knock out complete cans, because he couldn't even do it to Tanzalovi. He couldn't even knock that guy out. So yeah, I'm not laying minus 650 on Musasa. I think it's a dog or pass play here. And honestly, like, it's getting to the point where you almost need to make a pick here on Vera, because he's got an interesting, unique striking style. He's got the kind of grappling game that's going to be difficult for a guy out of Central Africa to prepare for. Good luck finding even a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu purple belt in that part of the world that you're going to be able to grapple with that has any kind of submission game whatsoever. Carlos Vera is training with Ryan Hall. If you don't think that Ryan Hall can come up with some kind of a game plan to put this Musasa kid, who has 33 minutes of MMA experience against Central African bums, I think Ryan might be able to come up with something to get Carlos into a couple of decent positions here. He could win by submission. Shit, man. He could roll in on an Imanari roll, go for a leg lock, use it to sweep, get into top position, and then just stay there for 3 minutes. He could bank around that way. You know, he could not engage at all on the feet and use some bullshit Taekwondo technique. There's a bunch of different ways that Vera could potentially make this fight interesting, but man, we're probably better off just keeping our money completely away from it.
Absolutely. And to answer your questions, chat, Vera by sub has opened up at plus 750. So he's a money line plus 550. Yeah. And his sub is only $2 better than that. They know
he has a path to victory. Right there. That's telling you, like, hey, this guy actually has a path to victory in this fight. And you're getting plus 550 on the money line.
It's his money line, basically.
Yeah. It's something.
Oh, it's gross. It is gross. All right, guys, we will move along at that. Next up, you've got Dilnar Nurgozhay taking on Brinson Brinson. There's a D in there. My bad. So, Wheezy, full confession here. This Dilnar guy, I don't have a whole lot on. I was doing the last couple of fights that I wasn't familiar with, guys, literally like with my feet up on the dashboard. I was the passenger princess for some of the drive coming home this afternoon and trying to cram in the last little bit of tape study that I could get done. And this was the one that fell off on the chopping block. I could not get to Nurgozhay. to find some of the stuff, because I need my laptop and I need my mouse and keyboard to type that name in and get all my access to my shady websites that might have his fight footage. So I don't have a whole lot on him. From what I see, take it with a grain of salt, but a little bit of a low output striker. I mean, he likes to counter. He looks for the overhand left. Decent wrestling, but for these Ovs, Evs, and Hayes, you would think maybe grappling is the forte here. I'm not entirely certain he's a Khabib, right? He's not a Nurmagomedov type. So I don't know. We'll need to kind of look at that. I'll need to put a pin in it and do a little bit more research, but he seems okay. 10-0, undefeated. We know Brinson Hibario. That's the one that we can definitely talk about here, right? Brinson Hibario, not all that great. 28 years old. He got a win over Kyle Machado. It was a split decision to snap a 2-fight skid. This guy has a literal 0% takedown defense, Wheezy. Yes, he has never met a takedown that he doesn't like. And if you guys check like UFC stats out and stuff like that, you'll see zeros. And you'll look and it's like, oh, because he's never shot a takedown or he's never faced a takedown, so they're just not putting anything there. No, he literally has a 0%. He's had 5 takedowns shot on him and he went down to every single one of them. So grappling is quite obviously a path where you can get this guy down if you really need to. If you're not going to grapple with him, he throws heat. He's got some heavies, man. His KO against Bruno Lopez on the Dana White's Contender Series was a big one. It was fun to watch. He gets a lot of round 1 finishes, but he also is live and die by the sword. He can get popped and put out too. I mean, this one seems pretty apparent to me who the UFC is trying to put in a decent position here. And Nurgozhay is the guy that they want to go ahead and get going with a big win here. I just don't know much about him. Wheezy, do you have anything you can tell the people about this guy? So I don't have to fumble on this one so much, but it's definitely a favorite or pass type of spot for me.
I fully taped Nurgozhay, so I'm almost finished writing up this fight. So yeah, I've got a pretty good opinion on it. I like this guy. He's a southpaw. He is a little bit low volume, a little bit one at a time with his strikes, but he's got a great straight left hand, and he's got nasty kicks with his left leg. Head kicks, leg kicks, body kicks. He goes to all targets on the body, and he lands heavy with it. Whether Diyar is the one who's initiating the grappling or whether his opponents are initiating the grappling, he finds his way to top position. Once he gets there, he stays there. When he starts to go for submissions, and he does, like, you look at this guy and he's all bricked up with muscle, he's all traps and pecs, he's actually pretty flexible, and he actually has like a really aggressive Brazilian jiu-jitsu attack from his guard. But when he's on top, he tends to be a little bit more conservative, a little bit more position over submission. So I see Diyar being able to win minutes in the grappling here. We saw Gagiasulov just take down Hibario at will and win minutes. And you know what's funny? Bruno Lopez attempted 0 takedowns against Hibario. Zhang Minyang, 0 takedown attempts against him. Machado, 0 takedown attempts against him. So none of these guys got a grappling game going against Hibario. But when Gagiasulov... Yeah, I know. I mean, like, why not try, right? But, well, I mean, Zhang Minyang knocked him out in like a minute and a half. But I'll have you know that dude has got a head like an Easter Island statue. He's taken every steroid in China, and his head has gotten bigger. You know, that's one of the, when your head actually grows and you're already a grown man, it's like, that they're on the steroids. When you see them being able to flex their eyebrow muscles, it's like, yeah, you're on steroids. So
got that HGH.
Dude, Hibario hit him with some shots that I think if he hit Diyar with, Diyar would go down, So I could see either one of these guys finding an early finish, or I could see Diyar actually getting takedowns, getting the top position, getting the half card, and just staying there for 3.5 minutes while he lands a few elbows and stays just busy enough to keep the ref off of him. So there's a few different ways that I could see this one going, but I think Diyar is defensively responsible enough at range to not let Brinson into the pocket, to not let him land that straight right hand. You don't want to get hit by Brinson's straight right hand, dude. No. It's going to be a problem. He's got a really nice jab, does Hibario, and he's got great calf kicks. This guy's 6'3" with an 81-inch reach. If he wanted to win minutes at distance striking range, he's got a beautiful jab. He's got a beautiful low kick, and he could use that range management in order to set up counters and land big shots with that straight right hand. But instead, he just kind of wades into the pocket and starts winging hooks. And so he's going to be susceptible to getting served at this level. So I think Nurgozhay is the much better minute winner, Clint. I think on the feet, it's going to be close, but I think Nurgozhay can get takedowns whenever he wants them and can win minutes with that. In terms of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I think both guys are equally likely to find a submission. And when it comes to the striking, I think both guys are equally likely to find a knockout here. So I feel like I'm going with Nurgozhay because of the minute-winning ability here. And because of that, I might want to go with a contrarian take and say that he's going to win this fight by decision. When we have like a minus 350 fight doesn't go to decision, the biggest difference I see between these two athletes is Diyar's ability to be able to win minutes with the grappling. So Nurgozhay by decision plus 350 might be a cheeky look that your Uncle Weezy will be keeping his eye on this week.
Interesting. I like it, Weezy. Yeah, on these kind of cards, you guys, sometimes you got to kind of turn the narrative on its head a little bit to find a spot. And Weezy, I don't like laying juice on untested prospects.
Yeah.
Because you get these guys that they look like something, and then they get to the UFC level and they're trash. And it's like they look so good on the regionals fighting absolute nobodies. They get here and they can't hack it. So I'm thinking Nurgozhay is definitely the side here, but at minus 355 for his UFC debut, I ain't touching it. You know, I'll pick him to win. I like the KO look. I like my guy Cade with his call of the head kick KO here in the chat.
Got a beautiful head kick, dude. Diyar's got a beautiful head kick.
I can't speak to it yet, but I will look it up and I'll find out about it.
It's nice.
But yeah, I'll side with the favorite here for now. I'll do some more research, you guys. I'll get a little better idea for you a little later in the week, and we'll circle back on this one. But even if I do find that maybe I like Nurgozhay, probably not a lot there for me to sink my teeth into just based on UFC debut, undefeated fighter, price tag. So be careful on this one.
And, all right, and anytime you're betting on a debuting fighter, you have that potential adrenaline dump, the nerves. It's the biggest fight of your life. So sometimes it's hard to keep, be calm enough to have a game plan to do what you were taught to do. Your instincts kind of just take over, and against more experienced fighters, they can find ways to exploit that.
They could also just be Robelis to Spain and end up in karate combat in 2 fights. So you never know.
Right. That's right.
All right, guys, next up, we got my girl, your girl, my girl. We love her. Sam Page is in the house this week. Oh, I love it. I can't wait. She's taking on Stephanie Luciano. And Weezy, I love the nickname Sam Page, right? I love the nickname Sam Page. Yeah. But she should get that bad boy upgraded because she's the fraud checker. Like, this girl is really checking asses out on their way to the UFC. If you cannot get by my girl Sam Page, if you don't belong in the UFC, she'll let you know in a hurry. She is tougher than an old leather boot, and I love her for it. There's certain people out there who get gifted by God. God just kind of taps them on the forehead and goes, you're going to be real fast, man. Some people will get touched on the forehead and God goes, you're going to be able to jump twice your own height because I want you to have some legs on you. And other people, he's just like, no, I'm good. And that's Sam is here through sheer will, determination, and skill, Weezy. And that's my favorite type of greasy, mangy dog, is when there are people that get looked past because they're not overly athletic, they're not overly fast, but they refuse to take no for an answer. Now, is my girl Sam Page going to take the UFC gold? Is she going to be a champion? No, we'll never get there. There's a glass ceiling on her, unfortunately. But she will fight at that mid-level, and if you ain't ready, she'll show you the door. And I love that. So in certain spots, we're going to get beautiful prices on Sam. We've already cashed a couple of them, and I'm looking at this one kind of side-eyeing it here just a little bit, Weezy. Sam likes to come forward. She's got relentless pressure, constantly throwing volume in your face. She's got a good jab. She's working very, very hard on her physicality. You check out her social media, and she's doing a lot of strength and conditioning training. She's trying to get her body up where it needs to be. She's got good takedown defense. And in fact, her offensive grappling, when she gets somebody tired, she likes to take them down and wash them on the mat, make them exhausted, and then just beat them up. She's not Not big on the power, but if you start to wear out, she will show you the door. She's capable of getting round 2, round 3 TKO finishes just because people don't want to be there anymore with her, and she'll keep battering them around the cage. Her opponent, Luciano, 6'1" and 25 years old. Definitely the one that I would say the UFC is probably more interested in of the two, unfortunately. She went to a draw on Dana White's Contender Series with Talita Alencar, guys. This is the chick that did that. They bring her back around, give her the exact same opponent for her UFC debut. UFC signs them both and make them fight each other straight away. She gets the win over Talita Alencar in the rematch, and Weezy, the insane amount of growth from this girl. 1 calendar year, 9 months, maybe a little less. It was insane, the difference. I actually bet on Talita Alencar in the rematch because the number was wider. And I thought, okay, so she was fully capable of taking this girl down and winning 2 rounds and then almost died in the third. If she comes into this rematch with the exact same game plan, just take a little bit of that edge off, why can't you bank those first 2 rounds and then not almost die? Just, actually survive that third round, get a win. I felt like that was some pretty solid logic. Turns out Luciano had done a lot of work and was much better at defending the takedown and was much better at controlling the range between grappling and striking. Talita looked like she was scared to shoot for takedowns. Talita didn't want to, ruin her gas tank and didn't want to extend herself and literally didn't give herself an opportunity to win this fight. Like she never even put herself in a position to be capable of winning and was kind of a running punching bag for 15 straight minutes. So I've got to give credit where it's due. This Luciano girl is rapidly improving, and it looks like she's got the athleticism that my girl Sam didn't get gifted with. So she's probably a relatively hot prospect, but has she patched up the grappling enough? Wheezy, that's the question, because Sam will strike with her. She's not going to have a punching bag in there. Sam will throw back, and she'll get the respect, and she'll make sure this girl doesn't walk all over her. And then she will level change, and she will pin her against the fence, and she'll test that heart. Plus 200 Sam Hughes always has my attention, Wheezy. I haven't pulled the trigger. I think it's a better live bet spot. After round 1, you probably get a big number. After round 1, you'll know if Sam's physically capable of getting this girl to the ground, or if that's even the game plan is the grappling. So I think it's probably a live bet type of spot, but Hughes by decision is always something on the table. I will warn you guys, though, the reason I'm kind of simmering on that here, though, is Luciano showed how much cardio she's got. Weezy in that fight on Dana White's Contender Series where she got mauled for the first 2 rounds, she beat Alencar within an inch of her life in that third round. She hit the gas tank, and she had a lot left to give. And that's Sam's calling card, is she's got more gas than you do in the third round. And if this girl can match pace with her for the full 15 minutes and not fade away like some of her opponents do, then Sam's advantage kind of flutters on out the window. So I hate to say it, but I'm going to pick Stephanie Luciano to win this fight, guys. I'm going to pick her to win by decision. Sam is going to compete. She's going to be in there. She's going to earn some respect and teach this girl a little thing or two about the UFC. But at the end of the day, I got to see it with my own 2 eyes before I can jump in. I hate doubting my girl Sam, Weezy, but I think I have to say that Luciano is maybe the right side. My guy VB doesn't like it at all. Yeah, I'm tempted. Weezy, don't get me VB, don't get me wrong. Like I said at the top of the show, you may not have been here for it. I did all my research in the car on the way home from California this weekend. So I want to pick Sam. My soul screams Sam, but as you guys know, it's tough sometimes for me when I'm like a mega fan of some of these fighters. I can't tell the difference between heart and head, and Sam is one of those people for me, Weezy. So, like, if I pick Sam, I want to make sure I'm picking Sam for the right reasons. Not because I want her to win, but because I actually think she's going to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and, this is a betting show. We don't bet fighters, we bet numbers. And they've given us a number that's interesting for this fight because, look, Sam Hughes, 4-5 record in the UFC, right? I mean, she's nothing that like you said, she's not going to be wearing gold around her waist. But she's been priced as an underdog in all 9 of her UFC fights, and she's got a 4-5 record. Now, unless you suck at math, that means that they're going to be paying you off. If you're getting plus money 4 times, you can only lose 5 units if you're betting a unit on her every single time. You lose 5 units on the losing bets. But then when you look at how she's cashing, plus 240 versus Amarim, big plus money, plus 140 versus Elise Reed, plus 160 versus Victoria Dudikova.
Those were good times.
She's cashing bets, and she's a profitable UFC fighter. She's probably got like a 30% ROI just attached to her money line if you're putting 1 unit on her money line. So Sam Hughes is somebody who's getting consistently underrated by the market and then consistently overperforming the market expectations of her. And she does that for a few different reasons. Number one, she's tough. She's not going to give up. Number two, she's got excellent conditioning. So if you are somebody who's a debuting fighter, who's got maybe an adrenaline dump, a little bit of nerves, who goes back to that stool after 1 round and feels tired, Sam Hughes can exploit that. Look at the Amarim fight. If you're somebody like Elise Reed, who's a one-dimensional fighter, you might find out in that fight that, holy shit, Sam Hughes can wrestle a little bit. She can get to top control. She can win minutes with ground and pound and even finish fights with ground and pound if her opponent has a hole in her game. The problem with Luciano is that she has excellent conditioning and she has excellent striking. You can look at the Allen Carr fights and know that she has really good conditioning, but you go one fight before that to the Karina Ariadne fight where she became the Jungle Fighty champion. She went a full 5 rounds, and when you watch her in the 4th and 5th rounds, you're like, holy shit, she's not tired. She's breathing through her nose. So Stephanie's 25 years old. She's 6-1-1 as a pro. Her only loss is a fight that she won that fight. She beat the shit out of her in the 2nd round, and she almost finished her in the 3rd round. And she got controlled for like three and a half minutes of that 2nd round, and the judges gave control over damage. But Stephanie was already putting it on Toledo in the 2nd round of the 1st fight, and then she went on to win every round of the 2nd fight. She's improving, but I don't know where she's that much better than Sam Hughes. She doesn't really have better conditioning than Sam. Sam's got more professional experience, 7 more fights as a pro, 55 more minutes of cage time, 8 more fights at the UFC level, Clint. We're talking about
she's
almost
a vet at this point, Wheezy, my girl.
Yeah, man. About 110 more minutes of octagon time. The combined records of Sam's 9 UFC opponents, 34 wins and 27 losses. These girls on Sam's resume, a lot of them beat Stephanie Luciano right now. So you're getting plus 210, and you're getting the more experienced girl who's fought the better brand of competition and who's proved a lot more at this level. And it's a completely different stylistic matchup than what Toledo Allen Carr was. A one-dimensional, pure Brazilian jiu-jitsu player with no striking, no clinch game. See, the one thing that people forget to cap is clinch. They forget to cap it all the fucking time. And unless you write down a process for how you're going to cap every single fight the same way, oftentimes you're going to forget to think who's going to win the minutes in the clinch. Who do you think wins the minutes in the clinch here?
I would lean towards Sam winning the clinch here.
She's very good there.
She mixes it up
very
so
good
well
there.
Between striking and grappling.
Yeah, she got a little bit roughed up in a couple of spots in the clinch by Tisha Torres in her first fight. Where that was her UFC debut.
Man.
Yeah, I know. So but you see that Sam is strong. She can hold you there. She can wear on you there. And these are all things that Stephanie really hasn't seen from her previous opponents. They're girls that were either trying to purely grapple her or trying to purely strike with her. I think Sam's going to be able to mix in a little bit of everything here and keep this fight really close. I wouldn't be laying minus this kind of money on Luciano. If I played her, I'd probably play the decision prop. But I think that this is going to be close. Sam Hughes money line plus 220. Sam Hughes by decision plus 275. We bet numbers, not fighters, and those numbers are very intriguing to me this week.
I completely agree, Wheezy, but the only one thing I'll say, though, is that I just think Sam Hughes live is the cheat code. You know what I mean? She's another one who takes time to get the ball rolling. She almost never comes out and is front kicking girls in the face and winning the respect early. Yeah. She kind of has to Homer Simpson it a little bit. She kind of takes a little bit of a beating. And even if she fights close enough to maybe argue to win round one, the books never respect her. So you might get plus 180 after round one, even if she wins it. You know what I mean? So like, I think Sam is the perfect fighter to be able to just kind of sit on your hands for a minute, see how this thing plays out, and then make an educated decision after you get that 5 minutes worth of information. But you're giving me a lot of reasons to like somebody who I've already been a fan of and already gone to well with and already cashed tickets on as a dog, Weezy. So you're speaking a lot of sense to me, and maybe we get to a Sam page here this week. Dylan saying think long, think wrong. Well, in this case, Dylan, though, it's do a little extra due diligence, not so much of thinking long. So, maybe a little grain of salt here on that one. Craig Brown, what's up? Getting down on hoops right now. So I hope that means you're the one hitting threes out there, Craig. I hope you're getting down at the gym or something like that. But if you're betting, good luck to you, my friend. Rimdog saying that Luciano received her BJJ brown belt recently. If there's one thing I trust about Sam, it's her submission defense. Man, when she was getting absolutely everybody and their mother was betting the house on Sam Hughes to get submitted by that absolute fraud, Jacqueline Amarim. She managed to come out of that one just fine. So I would not be too worried about that. She would need to hurt Sam on the feet to have some kind of a shot, in my opinion, before actually getting that tap. And also, guys, we did it. We made it. My Sam Page meme hit the Sam Hughes story for Fight Week.
Mute yourself, Clint?
What was that?
Did you just mute yourself?
I
can't hear you right now.
Did you lose me? Can you hear me?
I can't hear you at all. I don't know if the people out there can hear me or if it's my speaker that just went out. I don't know.
I can hear you, Weezy. Hey, chat, let me know if you can hear one, both, or either of us.
Let me see here. What the hell?
Technical problems on the live pod. Okay, Dixon says we hear both of you. So it's an audio issue on Weezy's side of things, it would seem. Testing. Do you want to pop out and pop back in, maybe? He can't hear me. I don't know why I'm bothering to give advice.
Damn it, I can't hear you. It's so weird.
Yep. Okay. We got both. We got both legends. K Deep. That's what's up. All right. He saw my backstage message. For those of you guys who have never used StreamYard, there's this little chat box that you can use to communicate with your guests and your hosts. So I sent them a little typed up message here. Let's see if this works. How's that, Weezy? Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I hear you. I don't know what the hell happened.
All right, he's back. You love to see it. Now, I got a real quickly tangent here for you guys. The reason I get so careful, Weezy, on these heart overhead type of spots where, you guys know I love my mangy underdogs, some of whom do not have a future in the UFC, and I bet on them anyway, like a JP buys. I get laughed at by the community for some of these, terrible long shot underdogs I pick. I have an error in my decision making, Weezy, and this is not a gambling thing. It's a life thing, okay? There's times where I have all the information. I have absolutely everything I need at my fingertips, and I still just click the wrong button, right? And that's why I come on this show sometimes, and I broke down the fight beautifully, perfectly, gave you all the points, and everybody in the chat cashes, but I somehow make a bet that doesn't hit because instead of just taking what's obvious, I do the wrong thing. This is a personality flaw. Weezy, when I was, oh God, I want to say I was like 11 years old. I get invited to this kid's birthday party, right? Mm-hmm. And it's a pool party. So we're all swimming, we're hanging out, we're having a good time, bunch of kids. And I get out of the pool and I walk over past this girl, and she was a cute little girl. And I look at this girl and she looks at me and she flashes the smile, and I'm thinking, okay, all right. Little Clint was like, I got this. Okay. And instead of saying hi or offering to get her a juice box, or, any of the acceptable things that I could have done in this circumstance, I put my foot on this girl's back and shoved her in the pool because I thought that's how you flirt with a girl. We're at a pool party, right? You throw this girl in the pool. Everyone starts screaming. And I'm like, what just happened? I start looking around. Her mother dives into the pool after her. Weezy, she couldn't swim.
Oh, God.
And I'm sitting here like, oh my God. And I was froze like a leaf. People are yelling at me. And I didn't know she couldn't swim. I'm just trying to flirt with this girl because she smiled at me the right way. And that's That's my whole life, you guys. I've got so many more embarrassing stories about situations exactly like this where I just make the wrong call sometimes. So I probably could have chosen a better hobby than gambling. But so you'll get some bonehead decisions from me sometimes, guys, and I'm trying to work on it. This is why it's a lifelong battle for me to get over this hump here. So let's move on that note. Speaking of bad decisions, Waldo Cortes-Acosta takes on Ryan Superman Spann in our next fight here, Wheezy. I've been on the wrong side of Salsa Boy, Wheezy. I can't stand the guy. He's not a mixed martial artist. He's a boxer. Like, this guy does nothing but box, and yet he's in the UFC and he's supposed to be mixing. He doesn't mix anything. Now, the one time he did actually mix was when he ruined my night against Robelis de Spain, who we then found out had absolutely no grappling whatsoever. That's the only time this man has ever shot a double leg, and it worked out to perfection. But we somehow have Waldo Cortes on this insane run now. Ryan Spann moving up to heavyweight, much like his Fortis MMA teammate. He'll be making his debut after tapping out Ovince St. Preux. We know Superman at this point like the back of our hands, Wheezy. This guy is a glass cannon. He is round one or bust. He is sub or bust. Like, if this guy is not club and subbing you in the first 3 minutes of the fight, he just falls apart. He doesn't have a good chin. He has redonkulous power, but it's only going to surprise you early. If he doesn't clip you early, he ain't doing it. You know, there was a time where he lost the decision to Anthony Smith because he doesn't know what he's doing in round 3. He just doesn't get there often enough to have any idea how to actually win minutes in a fight. So, yeah, man, I've had a love-hate relationship with Ryan Spann. We've gotten in on him at plus money inside the distance and buy sub multiple different times. And I was tempted to lean that way in this fight. And then I kind of had to like slap myself and be like, you've lost so much money facing Waldo. Don't do it again. Just don't. But I am so unimpressed with Waldo Wheezy. He doesn't know how to check leg kicks. And I was like, maybe that's an angle. And I look at Ryan Spann's leg kick stats. He throws like 6% leg kicks. He's a headhunter. Everything is to the head. He won't do the thing that might work in this fight. And then I look at like, okay, so is Ryan Spann going to clip this guy early? Well, Waldo's got a pretty damn good chin, it seems. Probably not. So if this fight gets extended, Waldo's just going to box up Ryan Spann until he collapses on himself. But there's the little wrinkle of this fight being up at heavyweight. I'm not sure what the power is going to look like for Spann. I'm not sure what the durability is going to look like for Spann. He's low volume at 205. Maybe he pushes a better pace at heavyweight. I'm not expecting it. I think we're going to get the same disappointing round one or bust Spann, but it makes it tough to bet against him when he can choke anybody out in the first 5 minutes of any fight. Damn it. I'm going to pick Waldo Cortes, Wheezy. I think he survives the early blitz and then is just working behind that jab. I am very curious to see if the durability issues are there or not for Spann at heavyweight. I am going to be contrarian on this one, Wheezy. And also Waldo Cortes by decision.
Yeah, I like that, man. I mean, 4 of his 5 UFC wins do come by decision for Cortes-Acosta. And, you know, but the difference between these two fighters is on the Ryan Spann side, you got somebody that's got God-given talent. You know, you got somebody that's got, you know, he's 6'5" with a 79-inch reach. He has a nasty front choke game. He has real power in both hands, and he's got that ridiculous size and length that you can't teach. But he has no process to his game. If Ryan Spann should wrestle, he will fucking strike. If he should strike, he will wrestle. He will do everything wrong. He has no process to his game. He has no clue how to win minutes. Dude, if you're losing minutes to Anthony Smith.
Hey, careful now,
dude, you cannot lose minutes to Anthony Smith, a guy with 20% takedown defense and no get up game. If you're afraid, you know, like if you're standing in front of Anthony and you're going 50-50 with him and you have any brain cells functioning in your head that are related to how you're going to game plan for a fight, which Ryan Spann has none of, you say to yourself, this is a close fight. I can take down Smith and get on top of him and win minutes. Does he do that? No, he doesn't. He sits there and he gets outpointed at range against a less athletic, slower guy who doesn't hit as hard. So Ryan Spann could fuck up a cup of coffee, frankly. I mean, like, the Bogdan Guskov fight
Such
was
a
fucking
good
awful.
line, Weezy.
Yeah, no, he can. I mean, like, because, you know, my dad owned a coffee shop, and that was his favorite. You know, like, if you could fuck up a cup of coffee, you really need to find a niche job, because if you can fuck up a cup of coffee, things are not going to go well for you in life.
That's
and
great.
Spann is that guy. You know, he's got all the talent in the world, but it doesn't seem like he trains a lot. It doesn't seem like he has any kind of process to his game. And with Waldo Cortes-Acosta, you get the opposite. A lot of people don't like that he's not a well-rounded fighter, but he knows who he is. He's a boxer. He uses his wrestling in reverse. He has excellent conditioning. He has excellent durability, and he uses that to push a pace and outbox you over a 15-minute sample size. He's the much more likely guy to win this fight, simply because Ryan Spann needs to grapple here. So now you are counting on Ryan Spann to go out there and do the right thing, as if he trains, as if he's listens to his coaches, as if he doesn't even seem to give a shit about his career. I feel like I give a shit more about his career than he does when I watch the way that he fights. And I don't want to spend a lot of time on this fight, because I'm just going to wind up going off on Ryan Spann, because it pisses me off when people piss away all that potential, and when they don't fight in a way that would make them so much better and would have them win so many more fights. I think the move up to heavyweight is really good for Spann. He's going to fight less talented guys who don't have his athletic ability. Ryan Spann's power is going to translate up here at heavyweight. He's going to have a better grappling game than most of these guys at heavyweight. And the fact that his conditioning and his heart are both ass won't mean as much, because he's going to be going against a bunch of guys with no heart and no conditioning in this division. So I think it's a good move up for him, but Cortes has him with process to his game and game plan. He has him with durability. He has him with conditioning, and he's the better boxer. I mean, Ryan Spann is 6'5" with a 79-inch reach, yet somehow he manages to have 34% distance striking accuracy. Please make that make sense. How can this guy be that long and that tall, and he can't hit water if he fell out of a boat? So, and he's been knocked down 3 times. He's getting knocked down on 1% of the significant strikes that he absorbs. So he doesn't have great durability either. So I got to go with Waldo here.
I hear you. All right. I'm with you there, Weezy. Unfortunately, I don't like picking Waldo, but I think that's the right side. And I don't know that he's got the power to actually get Spann out of there. So we could end up with like a greasy, nasty decision, just because his only KO is Lucas Brzeski, a guy that's been knocked out 4 times at heavyweight. So like, I just can't see him actually putting a stamp on a guy like Ryan Spann, who we will expect maybe the durability is a little better up a weight class. So yeah, greasy, boring decision here where Spann can't find the kill switch early. Interesting that we're talking about Spann though, Easy. I had a dream about Ryan Spann the other night. Not kidding. This is not like a bit that I'm doing. I had a dream that Ryan Spann asked me to help him move a couch, and then we stole one. So, like, he asked me to like move a couch out of his house, and so we go over to the house, and like
it's not his house.
Comes home. It's like his ex's house. And we're trying to like throw it off the second story to like steal this couch. I was like, that's one of those ones where you wake up and you're like, I watch way too much UFC.
Well, yeah, well, that's an apropos dream, because that young man has stolen money from his Uncle Weezy so many goddamn times when I've chosen to back him against bums like Bogdan Guskov, and he winds up shitting the bed for me. So yeah, he steals all right. You know, maybe it's not actual couches, but it's figurative couches.
It was
out of his Uncle Weezy's living room.
It was all the cash shoved in between the cushions at Weezy's house that we stole. Oh my goodness! All right, guys.
My house. It was my house that you were taking that goddamn couch from, Clint. Damn it, dude.
Oh my god. Oh, shout out the sponsors, everybody. We got Spectation Sports. If you guys haven't signed up, you need to. Spectation Sports is putting on some of the best regional MMA you guys have ever seen. We got Cage Titans 70 coming up, and then the second Baroka show, which is a brand new league. You guys are going to want to check these out. Promo code DieHard will get you a 20% discount when you sign up. And guys, do me a favor. Spectation is really making a push here. Follow them on social media. They got Instagram. They're on X, Twitter, whatever. Like, they're everywhere. They're posting highlights and stuff like that. Just this past weekend, they had an awesome show where only 4 fights went the distance on a 12-fight card. Like, these guys were absolutely massacring each other on this card. So give them a follow. Awesome highlights, awesome stuff to watch. Spectation Sports. And again, click the link in the description below. Get signed up. Check them out. Next up, you've got the Fight Numbers squad. John Kelly's boys over there. Pepe usually is hanging out in the chat. Get signed up here if you guys like DFS. I turned $25 into $40 over the weekend thanks to the tools here. FightNumbers.com. They've got the trends. They've got professional picks. They've got the best odds board in the game. You can see some of the tools where they can predict like who's going to have ownership and stuff like that. It is a lot more fun playing DFS when you win a couple bucks here and there instead of just donating when you buy in, which they've turned me into somebody who can, push, break even, win a little bit. So check them out. Finally, Bet Openly, you guys. We've been talking about Bet Openly. Big deal on Bet Openly, you guys. They hit the $10 million mark for money saved for gamblers like us just by giving us access to reduced juice. It is peer-to-peer, so a real live human being is taking your bet on the other side of the action. I'm going to continue running contests with these boys, so we will be giving away $50 on fight nights, probably doing $100 on UFC nights, and maybe thinking about maybe putting together another gauntlet for those of you who are interested in running. But regardless, this is a great out to have. Like I mentioned before, I was in California this weekend, you guys. I was able to lock in some action on Bet Openly and get a couple of bets. I booked a couple hockey parlays that I cashed, but couldn't access my, DraftKings, MGM, FanDuel, any of those else out there. These guys are available all but 4 states in the United States, and I believe they're in almost every country overseas. So click the link in the description below. Get signed up for Bet Openly. Start saving money today. And on top of that, we've got Uncle Weezy joining us for this dumpster divey type of card, UFC Vegas 104. We got just a couple more fights to talk to you guys about, and I cannot wait to get into this one with you, Weezy. We've got Seung Yu taking on AJ Cunningham. So, Jiu-Jitsu, one of the more fun names coming off the road to UFC. I love Jiu-Jitsu. This guy has only fought road to UFC fighters, Weezy, and that's a big enough red flag in itself. 14-3. He is 1-0 in the UFC, but that was the road to UFC finale or whatever, so it was against another road to UFC guy. I'm not sure if any of these guys are ready for the big show or anything like that. This guy is a guy that'll take the fight anywhere it goes. You want to grapple? Cool. You want to strike? Cool. He's decently explosive. He's got thick little running back thighs on him. He explodes in with big overhands, big blitz attacks. Decent blast double legs. He looks for the takedown, looks to grind and control with his wrestling. That's something that I'm always suspicious, Weezy, that you're able to grind out these other Asians, guys who don't generally cut weight, guys who don't usually train wrestling at a young age. And then you come over stateside. Is that going to work? Are you going to be able to grind out these guys that have been wrestling since they were 6? I don't know. I don't think these guys are going to be able to hang unless you're Rinya Nakamura and you're an actual, Olympic hopeful type that's got better wrestling than everybody. I'm not sure these mid-level wrestlers from Asia are going to be able to come over and do the same type of thing here. He's more of a sub and decision type of guy. He's only got 3 KOs on his entire illustrious 17 fight record, so not a big power puncher type of guy. He got chin checked in the road to UFC many times, which red flag. You're getting pieced up by some of these guys on road to UFC. So far seems durable enough, but again, I doubt how much power these guys bring to the table, period. So if you're getting hit like that on road to UFC, I worry if you're going to be able to keep that up against UFC caliber competition. AJ here lost on Dana White's Contender Series to Steve Wynn, a fight where he essentially got knocked out at the bell of round 1, was able to somehow stumble his way back to the corner, and they let the fight continue, and he caught a second wind, Weezy. He actually got himself into that second round, and it looked almost like he was going to turn the tide. He's a Diaz brother. He's one of these guys where if you just let someone die in the cage, you shut the cage door, you lock it, there's no time, go until someone's dead, he probably will win a whole lot more fights because he's got great cardio. He's too stupid to know when to quit, and he will just keep on coming looking for violence. Steve was able to tag him and the referee stepped in and saved him from further brain damage, but he wasn't out. You know, it was one of those wobbled on the feet type of situations where who knows? He probably would have come back for round 3 if the ref didn't wave it off. He lost his UFC debut to Ludovic Klein. He went down to body shots, though. Even a guy like Ludovic Klein couldn't hit this guy in the head hard enough to actually put him out. He took the fight on 4 days' notice, up a weight class at 155. Of course, he was going to get murked in that spot. He's dropping back down to 145 for what should be seen as his true UFC debut. And he has been traveling, man. He's going full Ronin for the last year after that fight. Factory X, Extreme Couture. He's training with Bryce Mitchell. I don't know what to think of AJ. I'm not sure he's any good, but I know he's durable. I know he's got cardio, and I know he likes the taste of his opponent's blood. And those are the types of things that could entice me to click the button at plus 500 Wheezy against a road to UFC veteran. It looks like I'm seeing plus 470 pop up here. Somebody else got the same idea I did. Wheezy, I might just be insane enough to bet AJ Cunningham this weekend. He is a religious nut a la Bryce Mitchell. You know, those two guys go to Bible study together. And as somebody who is a man of faith, is a Christian, I will tell you there's two types of Christians or religious nuts in MMA, Wheezy. There's 2 of them, one good, one bad. The Rory McDonalds, the ones who find God late in life, they find God halfway through their MMA career and they get soft. You know, the Ariane Lipskis, who finds God and changes her name from the Queen of Violence because she's not that person anymore. It's a good thing for them on a personal level, right? Like happy for them to have found their faith on a personal level, but they lose that edge. They lose that will to kill, and it makes them a worse fighter. We've seen it. We've seen it many, many times. Now, the alternative to this is the crazy, insane zealots who like the taste of their opponent's blood dripping out of their mouth. If we were back in, you know, the 1400s or whatever, they'd have slapped a helmet on this guy and given him a broadsword and he'd be stabbing brown people just because God said so. Like that's the type of psychopath that we're dealing with here. And that's the kind of person who I want to have my money on in the cage, Wheezy. I do not know that Jiu-Jitsu has enough power to get the respect of AJ. I don't know that he can hit hard enough to crack AJ. Even though AJ's got no defense striking, it doesn't matter. I don't think this guy's got enough pop in his hands to make a difference. And then if we're grappling, this guy gets grinded on by Bryce Mitchell on a daily basis. So I don't know that Jiu-Jitsu is going to be sneakier than anything else that he's seen in the gym before. This guy should be able to hang on the ground. What we have seen from Jiu-Jitsu is he's been dragged deep a couple times, and once he got TKO'd in the 3rd round because he gassed out. If you're coming off road to UFC, I want to fade you already. And the UFC, for God knows what reason, thinks that the viral clips of Bryce Mitchell being a Nazi lover, that's good clicks right now. They're promoting his training partner and good buddy. I don't see why we don't just get a little insane here, Wheezy, and take the shot on the plus 500 dog. I may even sprinkle the round 3 TKO.
Hey, we bet numbers, not fighters, and Seung Yu is at minus 700. Is I don't even know if I have the word for it. I might need a thesaurus. I mean, what is that? What are we doing? Minus 700? You know, I don't know who you could put him in the cage with that's on the UFC roster that's not a female that he should be minus 700 over.
There's no name.
It doesn't make any sense at all. This guy is okay. He's okay. What's his best win? Is it Bear Gang Elizeu? Is it Jawupasi Dermisi? Is it Shohei Nose? Certainly not Dastan Amel Geldi because that dude knocked him out. You know, and he fought in Niza FC. Niza is a good Central Asian promotion that has got a lot of good fighters that wind up coming to the UFC in it. But Cunningham, you know, and here's the other thing, dude. This fight's at 135. So I don't know what the hell AJ Cunningham's doing. He's not a 35er. He's a 45er who's fought like 6 times at lightweight. So not only is he cutting down to 145,
I thought it was 45. It's all the way down at 30. He's going to be huge, Wheezy.
He's going to be huge, but he's going to kill himself. He's going to kill himself making that weight. This is a big featherweight.
He doesn't have the brain cells anyway. It don't matter.
I
As long
know.
as his body's moving, he'll get in the cage.
Yeah, yeah, he'll get in there. I don't know how well he's going to be able to perform though. He's going to be a lot bigger than this dude though. 4 inches taller, 6-inch reach advantage. He's got a pretty good amount of experience at 15 fights, and he's fought some pretty good guys. So yeah, I mean, I suppose there could be some reasons to get behind Cunningham here. I've got to look more into him though. I've got to look back into that regional scene footage and see how he's winning fights and against who. Because if you can find something, yeah, I know, man. You know that this guy's tough, but he might be a little too tough for his own good, like that kind of thing. So
that is the right way to say it, Wheezy.
Yeah,
he is,
man.
In fact,
we'll
too tough
see, because
for his own good.
That was a gritty performance against Ludovic Klein, and I mean, he got the shit beaten out of him. But like, he never quit on himself in there. And Seung Yu is not going to bring 10% of what Ludovic Klein brings to the octagon. Not even close. So yeah, we're gonna have to see, man. This is a big step down in competition from his last couple of fights. So we'll see how he handles it.
Yeah. So, I mean, Wheezy, this is the situation where people always try to tell you don't fade shit with shit.
Yeah.
I might be trying to fade shit with shit, guys. Because like Wheezy said, we're betting numbers, not necessarily fighters. This guy shouldn't be minus 750 over anybody on the UFC roster. And Cunningham is going to be absolutely massive at 135 pounds. If he's not compromised going in that cage because of this weight cut, Wheezy, he's going to be so much bigger, so much stronger. And really, his calling card is just the fact that he does not stop. He's got a couple of round 3 wins. He's got a couple of late round 2 wins, because these guys just cannot keep up with the fact that he's going to put his foot on the gas pedal and just never let up. Most of his wins are over people who are 500. So it's not a good record whatsoever. But the key is Seung Yu. Look at these road to UFC fighters, guys. Look at all these guys. They get to the UFC, and even though they've got these glistening 19-4 type of records, they get to the UFC and they get punked. Like, these guys are not UFC caliber. Just because the Asian scene is so weak right now, they can put together a good run to get here. Doesn't mean they can hang here. Is Seung Yu a guy who should be 9-6 if he were fighting stateside? He might be. And if he is, that's the kind of guy AJ Cunningham can beat. So we're taking a couple of guess steps here. But this is a you got to prove it to me type of spot, Wheezy. There's not a lot of spots on this card that I really like for betting, but fading a road to UFC guy at plus 500, count me in. Sign me up.
I hear you, man. I'm probably going to be staying away from this one because of the weight cut, because of all this stuff. But like, there's no way you can lay minus 700 on Seung Yu.
Yeah,
your brain is broken if you're doing that.
Yeah, just ain't it. And yes, AJ, I have lost my marbles, but I might have money on your namesake, AJ, come Saturday. All right, guys, next fight. We got Blackshear taking on Cody Gibson. We go from a terrible fight with some really low-level guys to an exciting banger with some real high-level guys. I like this fight. Cody Gibson is underrated scrambly, man. He's a big body dude, and he's way faster than he looks like he should be allowed to be. Good, solid grappling on him. Tough type of guy. His opponent, Blackshear, tall, lanky, athletic. He's a primary grappler as well, but at 30 years old, Wheezy, we saw in his last fight, he's getting real comfortable with that striking game. He showed big improvements in there. Rocked Cody Stamen bad before finally jumping on his neck and taking him out once Cody decided it was time to shoot a takedown. So we're seeing some new wrinkles to the game of Blackshear, but this should primarily be probably a grappling game, because both these guys want to take their fights to the ground. I don't think we have that grappler versus grappler will bang it out on the feet instead situation. I think Blackshear probably has a pretty significant edge if that's the way they go. Cody Gibson has been submitted 4 times over his career. Blackshear, he's been knocked out once. He's never been submitted. Man, this is a big number, Wheezy, but I also think it makes sense. I think Blackshear is the rightful favorite, and I think he's going to have an advantage in the grappling. He probably finds his way to a submission over the older Cody Gibson here in this spot, in my opinion. What do you make of this fight?
Yeah, Blackshear is 10-0 to the sub, and we've seen Cody Gibson get subbed 4 times in 10 professional losses. So it's definitely something that you're looking at as a whole in the game of Gibson, but you got to go back a ways. You know, you got to go back a ways to find Cody Gibson getting submitted. He's a different fighter now. He's 37 years old for a bantamweight. You know, you don't like to see that, obviously. But he's got 31 fights, and Blackshear has 23. These guys have got like 600 minutes in the octagon between them. Not the octagon, but the cage. But 15 combined UFC fights. These guys are well matched. You know, I think they're well matched on the feet. I think they're well matched in the wrestling. I think they're fairly well matched on the mat. But Damon's younger. He's a little bit longer. He switches stances. He's had the better wins lately. I mean, you know, you can't get excited about Cody Gibson beating guys like Francisco Rivera, Brian Kelleher, who's retired, Chad Anheliger, who's not, you know, who doesn't have a well-rounded skill set. You know, while Blackshear's out there, you know, in there with guys like Bautista, you know, and he's finishing guys like Stamen and Jose Johnson and Luan Lacerda. He's not just beating these guys, he's kind of dominating them. So, you know, you see a guy in Gibson who's at 37 years old. He's getting towards the end of his career, while the career trajectory for Blackshear is a lot better. It's a lot easier to get behind right now. And, you know, both of these guys have been pretty active lately, but Damon is obviously the better athlete. He's the faster guy, and he's the more dangerous submission grappler. I'm not exactly sure where Cody's better than Damon. But then you look at the betting line and you're like, oh, God, well, no thanks. You know, I mean, what am I supposed to do now? Am I supposed to bet him to win by sub and put a full unit on it? Am I supposed to parlay this guy with Su Young Yu to get minus 350?
Not with Su Young Yu.
No,
Not with Su Young Yu.
Yeah, no, I'm not doing it with Musasa either, you know, so it's a little bit ugly. You know, I don't think you should be laying this kind of money on Blackshear here, but I think he's the rightful favorite because of career trajectory, because of athleticism, because of power. I think he's definitely got a little bit more power on the feet too. But when you look at that 10-0 record to the submission compared to the 5-4 record to the submission that Cody Gibson has, I think that this is going to be Damon's fight. But the betting line is so far ahead of where it should be. It kind of makes it where you kind of have to go to the Gibson side to find value. And I don't know if I want to be there.
I hear you, Wheezy. I mean, this is one where, quite frankly, guys, I'm a little on the other side of Wheezy on this one, as far as I don't mind chalking up on Damon Blackshear on this one. Cody Gibson is more than willing to engage in a grappling fight, and I just think Damon is going to be faster. He's more athletic. I think he'll be stronger. I think he'll find those positions. So even if we end up in a grapple-heavy fight, I think he'll find a way to get ahead on the scorecards in that fight. And then if we're on the feet, I think from what we saw in the last fight, we can give Damon Blackshear a decent little edge striking. So whether this thing goes feet, goes ground, I give the advantage to Damon. If it finishes inside the distance, I expect Damon to be the one doing the finishing based on what they have lost by, you know, their win-loss record and their history. And then if it goes the distance, I mean, it's unfortunate if you end up in one of those fights where the judges don't know what they're looking at and it's closer than it should be. But I think Damon gets his hand raised. So no, Cade, I am not confident enough to go anchor on this one. We got to be careful with the anchor. This isn't the week. There's one or two options maybe for an anchor on this week, but this ain't it. I like Damon. I won't mind throwing him into a parlay somewhere just because he could finish inside the distance. He could go the distance. I don't want to take a prop like that. I'll probably do a 2 or a 3 leg parlay with him in it at some point. I think he wins. But yeah, it could be sketchy. There's some options where it gets a little hairy, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Moving right along, everybody. Last couple fights here. We got Alexander the Great Hernandez taking on Kurt Holobaugh. And Wheezy, what happened to the game? I love Alexander Hernandez. I was so hyped on this kid. This angry little rage monster that made it to the UFC and won it via first round. His UFC debut, he won it by first round thundering knockout, like lit the world on fire, talking shit to Donald Cerrone, like made a run at the UFC rankings immediately. I loved this kid. I was all in for the chaos that Alexander Hernandez was going to bring to the UFC. And he just really kind of topped out quickly. He's been kind of a 500 fighter so far in the UFC, and the gas tank problems, even training up at elevation, is something that's just never really gone away. He gets into that third round and you see the panic in his eyes. His last 2 fights have both gone to split decision. He got the win over Austin Hubbard, which is not a good look in 2025. He lost a split decision to Damon Jackson, which is not a good look in 2025. Now, Factory X completely fell apart. That team is gone, and that's where he really was home. Now, he's training with Justin Gaethje and Trevor Whitman, which now you've got my attention because Whitman might be the best coach in the game. And Justin Gaethje is someone that this little kid could look up to and take a piece of and maybe get some of that violence back into his life. So maybe there's some growth to be had in that game camp. But besides that, Hernandez is somebody I'm very wary of these days, man. He's regularly priced like -200, -225, and he's greasing out these split decisions where he's got to hang on for dear life in round 3. It's not a good place to be laying chalk, but he does manage to get the win sometimes. Kurt Holobaugh, 38 years old, and he's really looking career best right now, man. You know, common opponent, Austin Hubbard, this guy choked him out in round 2. Trey Ogden, our favorite mangy dog with high fight IQ, got the win over him, but he immediately came back in what was a very exciting back and forth fight against Krachewski, and he can mix in the wrestling. He can mix in the grappling. He goes to the body and the head. He throws in combos. He keeps a good pace. He's got constant pressure. He's big. He's strong. Like, Holobaugh looks the best he has ever looked when he's knocking on the door of 40. It is hard for me to look at this guy and go, he should be a big dog in this spot. Now, if there were some chinks in the armor, if there was a couple bad experiences, then maybe I'd have a leg to stand on here. Alexander Hernandez always looks good beating up old men. Like that's when he seems to be at his best, is when he's fighting guys like Jim Miller, right? So maybe he looks good and shows out in this spot. But just based on the eye test, I think Kurt Holobaugh is going to be a tough out for someone like Alexander Hernandez, because he's going to be very hard to wrestle. He's going to be very hard to control. And I think Kurt's got the better gas tank. So dog or pass, man. Hernandez is a -200 favorite, +165 Kurt Holobaugh. I'm leaning to the Kurt side of things. I really am. And it's weird, but I kind of look that way. Weezy, what about you?
Yeah, you can't lay juice on Hernandez. I don't even know what he's good at these days. He's barely winning minutes against Jim Miller and Austin Hubbard. These are guys that are pretty easy to win minutes against. You know, Holobaugh is a guy who puts on a crazy pace. He's attempting 22.4 distance strikes per minute. That's almost twice the divisional average of 11.6. He lands 9.2. That actually is just under twice the divisional average of 4.7. Holobaugh stays in your face. He pressures forward. He's very durable. He's got a ton of heart. Can you say that Hernandez is durable? No. Can you say that he's got a ton of heart? Dude, when you're getting walked down and barked at by Thiago Moises because he's out striking you, that's not good, my friends. That's a bad look, dude. You know, I mean, it's one thing if Thiago takes you down and works you on the mat. If you're getting outstruck by that dude, I don't know what you're good at anymore. And he might have switched camps, but it's not the first fucking time, Clint. He's switched camps before, and they couldn't fix this guy. You know, the problem is sometimes, you know, a big win that you really probably shouldn't have won is more of a curse than it is a blessing. And he goes out there and he beats Beneil Dariush, and they have no choice but to throw him into the deep end of the pool. And he goes out there and he gets a phenomenal win against Olivier Aubin-Mercier. He out-grapples him. And it's like, holy shit, man, this guy's got one-punch knockout power, and then he's out there out-grappling a black belt in Olivier Aubin, you know, in OAB. All right, you know, maybe this guy's really good now, you know. Then it just kind of falls apart. And now, you know, he's getting outworked by Quarantillo. He goes to a close decision with Jim Miller. You know, he loses to Bill Algeo as a favorite. He loses to Damon Jackson as a favorite. He's a pick'em against Austin Hubbard and barely beats Austin Hubbard. You know, I think Holobaugh can outwork this guy. I think he could just do more. I think he can just be there for 15 minutes, pressuring, staying in his face, refusing to fuck off. I think Holobaugh plus 3.5 points handicap, Holobaugh money line, Holobaugh finish only prop. I think that these are all pretty good looks, because I think that Kurt, where you can agree that he's better than Hernandez is with conditioning, with heart, with pace, and with pressure. He's going to be better at all those things. So unless Hernandez is one punch knocking him out, which we haven't seen that shit since, it's been a long, probably since the Obama administration, since this guy has, knocked out somebody. And then we've got, Halabaugh, who here at 38 years old is still the same fighter that he was in his mid-20s. He's just a scrapper. He's got good Brazilian jiu-jitsu. He's got good power and excellent pressure and excellent volume. So I think Kurt can maybe win this fight by decision. I think he can make it really close. I think he's a good dog bet this week.
I like it, Weezy. I like it a lot. And honestly, I'll even be looking at like the round 3 prop for Halabaugh, because these guys that are making Alexander Hernandez rethink his life choices late in fights. Kurt is a mangy dog. Like, he will bite down and start throwing.
Yeah, he will. Absolutely, he will, dude. That's what he's done his entire career. This guy's finished 17 of his 21 wins. He looks to break people. Are you frozen or am I frozen? Okay, you're. I hear you now. Okay, good.
Yep, I'm back. Had a little hiccup in the old internet, unfortunately. But I'm glad we agree on that one, Weezy. I might be looking to take another mangy dog shot. I'm not even sure that Alexander Hernandez is long for the UFC at this point. Because if he loses another fight, I could see him going the way of Jalen Turner. He had that fire. The fire has obviously died. He's saying all the right things on social media. But as soon as that cage door closes, if he starts freaking out again, I don't know that he's going to have the testicular fortitude to dig deep enough to stay in it anymore. If he ends up in another bad spot, he might just be done. He might hang it up.
And we don't have to worry about that with Halabaugh.
That's exactly correct. All right, guys, next up, we've got the hottest prospect on the entire card. Kevin Vallejos finally makes his UFC debut, and he does it against Seung Choi. And Seung Choi was like my man Sam Hughes. He was my man page. This guy was a mangy dog that I absolutely loved and I wanted to do well and I've been cheering for. He's got high volume and he stings everybody. Sting is the perfect name for him because he absolutely pops everybody that he's in there with, Weezy. And he hurts them and he rocks them, and then he just cannot follow up enough to actually get that finish. And over the course of his fights, they just kind of figure him out. He doesn't slow down, but it's like he's got a limited striking arsenal that he gets figured out. And then they eventually start tagging him, and now he's been knocked out 3 times. And I'm not going to hold the Steve Garcia knockout against him. Everybody gets knocked out by Steve Garcia, but I'll sure as hell hold the Mike Trizano knockout against him. He's 1-4 in his last 5 fights. Like, this is it, man. Seung Choi is on the chopping block if he don't win this fight on Saturday. And the matchmaking is everything you need to know. Gene Silva has taken the UFC by storm, you guys. Lord is the king of the fighting nerds. I don't care that he's not the captain, but he should be. And that guy went life and death with Kevin Vallejos on Dana White's Contender Series. This kid right here, Kevin Vallejos, gave Gene Silva the hardest fight he's had since he's been under the UFC banner. And I know, we've seen a lot of these guys that fill in on short notice or that have one stellar fight and they just never live up to that ever again. They have one brief shiny gold moment and they're never able to repeat that performance. And maybe that could be Kevin, but he's 23 years old, Weezy. He's not one of these guys who's coming in late to the UFC and they finally climb the mountain and they have their best performance ever and they can never get back to it ever again. He's 23 years old. He's going to get better. That wasn't his best performance. That was not the pinnacle of what this kid's capable of. That was one night, and he's going to learn so much more and get so much better. I cannot wait for the future of Kevin Vallejos. This kid's got nuclear power in absolutely every one of his limbs. He's Argentinian, so we've got a couple of Argentinian fighters that are starting to make waves here in the UFC, and I think he might be the best option of them. I can't wait to see what he can do here. I think he is a justified favorite in this spot. I will say the line is probably too wide for a debutant. We're doing a lot of lifting based on that fight with Gene Silva and what we're seeing from Gene Silva in the UFC right now. Minus 550 is too much for a 23-year-old debutante. However, what we've seen from Seung Choi is somebody who can be figured out, somebody who can be hurt, somebody who can be knocked out, somebody who is sliding drastically the wrong direction. This guy had a decision win over Youssef Zalal. This guy knocked out Julian Erosa. Like Seung Choi looked like he was on a rocket ship for a hot minute there back in 2021. And now he's losing to guys like Mike Trezano and Josh Kalibau, who just got cut. He's the only guy Alex Caceres can manage to submit. That ain't good. Like, he's backslid so hard after a fast start. It's Kevin Vallejos season, Wheezy. I don't like the minus 550. That is absolutely the wrong price tag. But frankly, he's just going to knock Seung Choi's head off, so it doesn't matter. Yeah,
he's going to run through him, I think. You know, and you know, the career trajectory is very important, you know, because it's probably the most important thing to analyze, because when it's when it goes too far that you can profit from it, right? Sometimes you can find fighters that are on a positive career trajectory, but they haven't beaten anybody yet. And they get up to the UFC level and they're fighting somebody with a negative career trajectory, but the last 9 fights that this guy has had have been people who would bury this current opponent. So you can use it as one of those ways to kind of find underdogs that are going to pay you off because the hype is too much, you know, because the strength of schedule difference is too much. But with Choi here, I mean, if you're getting outstruck by Trezano, you know, if you're getting knocked out by Trezano, he's gone. Kulabau is gone. Steve Garcia, I don't mind, but like even in that fight, I had Garcia as the ass shaving of the week because I don't like the way Seung Choi looks against southpaws. Seung Choi's best weapons, he is much more comfortable throwing them against orthodox fighters. I'm pretty sure that Vallejos here is going to be coming out southpaw, so it's going to take away the low leg kick, and it's going to make that check right hook a little bit less effective on the check left hook a little bit less effective on the Choi side. It's his favorite strike to throw. So Vallejos could probably stay in that southpaw stance and just absolutely use his durability and his power differentials that he has in order to find the off button on Choi, who we've seen knocked out in 3 of his 7 losses. We've seen him submitted in 2 of 7 losses. So you can make this dude find the door. And, you know, I lost money fading Gene Silva because I thought people were overrating the performance against Vallejos. And then he came back in that Cam Teague fight. I remember I was like watching that fight going, holy shit, this kid looks incredible, you know? And I was like, you know, if I knew he was that good, I wouldn't have bet on Drew Dober to beat Gene Silva. I wouldn't have bet on Jordan to beat Gene Silva. You know, I would have realized that Gene Silva is the real deal. Well, now that I know that Vallejos is the real deal, and like you said, dude, he's only 23 years old. These guys are going to be able to make these improvements, and I am a fan of these Argentinian fighters. I used to think that Samurai Fight House was a joke promotion, but there's some good fighters coming out of there right now. You know, Aylin Perez came out of there. Esteban Ribovics came out of there. You know, hey, they're winning fights.
Don't give me the Alien Perez. Don't bring that in here.
Fights, you know, but, you know, come on. Who else? Francisco Prado as well.
Prado.
You're seeing some of these guys really come up out of that scene, and some of the Peruvian fighters will actually go there too if they're not fighting in 300 Sparta or Inca FC or FFC. So you definitely this guy Vallejos, I can't wait to see him fight. And they're giving him a guy that's kind of chinny. The durability isn't quite there. The career trajectory is going straight
throw down too,
while Vallejos is going straight up. So you're seeing the line get to an unbettable place, and that's fine. I don't need to bet this fight, but I'm really interested to see this really phenomenal prospect go out there and do what I think he's going to do, which is knock out Seung Choi in the first or second round.
Yep. I like it, Wheezy. I got to tell you, though, message to Kevin, buddy, you better not fuck this up, because Kevin Vallejos is right there.
Yeah.
It is right there. If you are a bust, it's coming. I'm telling you, buddy, it's coming. The nickname. Yeah. So,
hey, you can't help it when it's your last name, man. You know, and when you're going to give cruel people a layup like that, they're going to take it. They're going to
Can't-
dunk on you if you
can't
lose
do it.
money for them, especially if you shit the bet as a minus 700 favorite. They're going to get mad at you.
That'll be right around the corner, Weezy. I went through high school with all the upperclassmen calling me clit, so I know all about it, baby. Let's get into these next few fights, you guys. Elizeu, Zaleski, Dos Santos takes on Chidi, Njokuani. And, man, Chidi, new life maybe here at 170 pounds. Dropping a weight class, bullying people around the cage, looking good, but maybe not, Weezy. He fought Reese McKee and Jared Gooden. And as much as I don't have a bad thing to say about Jared Gooden, he's now had 2 stints in the UFC and hasn't done super well. I hope he gets another shot, and I hope he goes on a run here. But the jury is out still here on Jared Gooden at the UFC level at this exact moment. And Reese McKee is not panning out whatsoever at the UFC level. So I kind of think the size bulliness here of Chidi Njokuani has carried him a little bit. You still can't take back the fact that you got pounded out against Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. The last good win Lord Mikkel had on his entire run was Chidi. He's 1-4 in his last 5, and the only one was Chidi. So, man, questionable durability sometimes, questionable cardio sometimes. The grappling still just kind of ain't there. He focused on it real hard for a number of years, and it looked like it got better, and it seems like he's kind of left that on the shelf again. So you can take this guy down if you really want to. Oh, man, when things get violent these days, Chidi just kind of, he seems to be on the wrong side of it. Now, Gregory Rodriguez, I'm not going to give him a hard time for losing that one. But it seems like down at 170, he's got to monitor his cardio a little bit more. So he's dragging these fights a little deeper than he was, throwing a little harder, when he had a little bit more soup in his stomach up a weight class. That's not where you want to be against Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. Like, this is an ageless Brazilian, Weezy. This 38-year-old man still fights like he's 31. He's got those spinning attacks that you love to see. He plods his way into boxing range. He's got heavy, heavy hands. He even hurt Randy Brown in that fight. Randy was basically on his bike the entire fight, and he got cracked by Easy Dose and dropped, and that made him get on his bike even harder for the rest of the fight, trying to stay away from this guy. Don't forget the Renat Fakhretdinov fight where Elizeu Zaleski got dropped at the very opening bell, got put on his ass. And then after getting beaten up for 10 minutes, came back and beat Renat Fakhretdinov within an inch of his life to force a draw in that fight. This guy's got durability, he's got recoverability, he's got cardio, and he's a BJJ black belt. I love me some Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. And if we're fighting over a hip, which these old men are, I think that's the side I like. Minus 180, decent little reasonable price tag here in this spot. Chidi might be a little bigger, a little taller, a little longer, but frankly, when Randy Brown had that height and reach advantage on him, Elizeu Zaleski went to the grappling, which is something we do not often see him go to these days. I think if he takes down Chidi, Chidi's fucked. I hope Easy Dose grapples in this spot, Weezy, because I think this is a very clear and obvious easy submission win for him if he chooses to follow that game plan. He can knock him out too. Don't get me wrong. We could car crash it if you want to. But I think the easiest path to victory here is clearly the submission, and Elizeu Zaleski should be able to play with this guy on the mat.
Yeah, potentially, but he just doesn't get a lot of takedowns. That's the problem. 0.7 takedowns per 15 minutes over a 16-fight sample size. Elizeu's definitely more comfortable on the feet, but we've seen him in stretches go out there and look really good when he does get takedowns, get to his opponent's backs, win rounds, look for submissions. But he's only 3-2 to the submission as a pro. Now, Njokuani's 1-3 to the submission as a pro. So he's definitely somebody that can be taken advantage of if you get down to the ground on this guy and you start to get to a dominant position. You can show Chidi the door. And that's the biggest difference I see between these two guys is the heart, the desire, the durability of Zaleski is there, while Njokuani's been finished in 8 of 10 pro losses. That's a bad look, that. And it's, this is not at the UFC level, really. He's been Bellator. Finished in 2 of his 3 UFC losses. But outside of that, there's 6 more finishes on the regional scene against non-UFC level competition. So I think Chidi's the more talented fighter, though. I think he's the much better striker. Dude, this guy's 4 inches taller and he's got a 7-inch reach advantage. He's got excellent Muay Thai. Chidi's nasty in the clinch. He's got great range management weapons. He should be able to stay behind some teep kicks and a jab and frustrate Zaleski at range. The question is that, does Chidi have the ability to come in here and put together a 15-minute game plan without getting clipped, without getting put in a bad spot on the mat? Because I feel like Elizeu is probably going to be the better moment winner because Chidi has been finished in 8 of 10 losses, because we've seen him put in bad spots on the ground, and because we've seen him land big shots on the feet, rush into the pocket, and then he winds up getting cracked, and then he's on bad legs, and then all of a sudden he's getting either knocked out or finished on the mat. So it's one of those things. It's like I feel like Chidi's going to be winning this fight up until he isn't, and that moment can come at any time. But I don't know how I want to pick this one yet, because Chidi's younger. He's 4 inches taller. He's got a 7-inch reach advantage. He's got just as much pro experience as Zaleski. I rate Chidi as the better striker at distance here. And Chidi's he's shown a pretty efficient minute-winning ability in certain fights at the UFC level as well. And Zaleski's not this dominant grappler. He actually loses more minutes than he wins in his UFC fights on the mat. So I'm leaning towards the Chidi side as being the value side here, but I'm fully aware that Elizeu could, turn this fight with one big body shot, with one big leg kick, with one takedown where he gets to a dominant position, and then he could be like, oh no, Chidi, hold on, and then it's over, So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting fight, man. I think it's a pretty good co-main event.
Wow, maybe the first disagreement that we've really had on the show tonight, Weezy. I like it. Well, I'll side with the old man, Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. Good luck if you're pulling the trigger on the dog. I'll be honest, though, I've just never really been completely sold on Chidi Njokuani. He's not been a guy that I've had a lot of success on, at least backing. Anytime I've decided to go ahead and pull the trigger on him, I haven't really faded him all that much. So usually I zig when I should zag, right? Like you're just wrong on both sides of the puzzle. I haven't bet against him a whole lot, but when I bet on him, he shits the bet every time. So definitely leaning towards Zaleski dos Santos in this spot. I'll be curious when we get some prop numbers what that sub looks like here, and I'll just pray to the Brazilian gods that this guy decides to have a grappling heavy game plan, because that's definitely the move against Chidi Njokuani here.
Agreed.
All right, guys. Main event of the evening. We've got the rematch. Marvin Vettori takes on Roman Dolidze, Mr. Steal Your Girl himself. Weird one, Weezy, weird one. So we saw this fight already. And whenever you see a fight, it's easy to go back and kind of go, you know what? We saw this fight. We know what to expect. Let's run it and really know the exact outcome, right? Well, I always tell you guys, no rematch is ever the same as the original, except in certain circumstances. Like 90% of MMA rematches, they don't go the way the first one went because people make game plan changes and they do something different and the coaches dig in and they come out with a different toolbox. The problem is, I actually think this is a fight where it will be the identical outcome because these guys don't have different toolboxes, Weezy. You've got Marvin Vettori, who's got an absolute brick for a head. You can't finish this guy. He's improving in his striking. He's very young. I think there's some serious upside here still on this kid. He's a very good grappler, but he's more of a control wrestler. The submission game hasn't quite been there in most of his fights. And when he's got the striking advantage, you just don't really have much of an option. He'll put up more volume than you, and he'll take a better shot than you. So the optics are bad because you'll react to his big shot, and he'll just keep plodding forward when you hit him with something. So that's how he gets his fights done, is by decision 9 times out of 10. Roman Dolidze on the flip side of this thing, he's a monster. He's an absolute monster, Weezy, but he's also chiseled out of solid granite. So you can't finish the guy. He is not the most skilled fighter in the world, but he's big, he's hairy, and he's very difficult to handle. If he can break you, he will break you. He finishes most people when he wins. And if he's not finishing you, then he's losing a decision because you'll mix the game better than he will. He'll goof around, he'll throw a head kick, and he'll land one, and that'll be great. It'll be a big, big moment. Everyone oohs and ahs, but then he won't follow it up with anything. He's a great jiu-jitsu guy, but he won't wrestle. He won't try to take you down. He'll rely on knocking you down or you taking him down or somebody tripping and falling. And then he'll talk to his coach halfway through the fight asking what to do instead of actually doing shit. So he might give you moments to buy, to recover and get back to health, even if he's got you hurt in a situation. He's not going to physically overpower someone like Marvin Vettori for a 15-minute fight. So that's out the window. He's not slick enough to outstrike Marvin Vettori for a 15-minute fight. So he's got to hit him with something hard enough to hurt him. That's out the window because Marvin Vettori doesn't get hurt in a fight, Wheezy. So Roman Dolidze will play guard from his back. We've seen it time and time and time again. Marvin Vettori's smart enough to put this guy on his back. Is he going to submit Roman Dolidze? No. Roman's way too good at jiu-jitsu to get submitted. Is Marvin going to knock out Roman Dolidze? No, because Dolidze's too tough to get knocked out. This fight only plays out one way, Wheezy, and it's a Marvin Vettori decision. The only thing that worries me is Marvin's been off for like a year due to injury. He pulled out of a fight. He's hurt his knee before. He's posting pictures of himself in the hospital going in under the knife. I actually wasn't able to figure out what injury he had leading up to this fight, so I don't know what he's dealing with as far as recovery and stuff like that goes. But the only difference in this fight is that it's a main event. So with it being 5 rounds, maybe something opens up late for these guys. You know, maybe one of these guys can find something in the 4th or 5th round to change the outcome of this fight. If it's a 15-minute fight, though, I mean, seriously, Weezy, 10 out of 10. I think it's just a Marvin Vettori decision over and out. With a 5-round fight, if Marvin Vettori's healthy, he's still kind of my dark horse in this weight class. I actually think he's got some serious room to grow and improve and could be a problem in this weight class with how young he is. So that's the side I'm looking at. I'm picking Marvin Vettori to win this fight. I'll say Marvin Vettori by decision, but with it being a 5-round fight, I don't know. That makes me question that ever so slightly, just a little. But if he's healthy, I don't think Roman's going to hurt him. And I think Roman has to hurt him to win.
Yeah, I think Marvin's the better minute winner at distance because he's more accurate with his strikes and he throws more volume. And we know that you can crack him with big shots and it just doesn't affect him, you know? So like Dolidze is going to throw less volume. He's going to be less accurate, but he's probably going to land the bigger shots. The question is, you know, are the judges going to care? Because, I mean, Vettori just eats it like a bowl of pasta and keeps coming forward. So, also, when in the wrestling, Marvin Vettori is the better wrestler. He's got the better takedown defense. So I think I rate Vettori as the guy as being the one more likely to win minutes with the wrestling. I like Vettori's conditioning better, and I think these two guys are two of the most durable fighters in the organization. So I like fight goes to decision here. You know, I would be shocked to see Roman Dolidze finished, and I would be shocked to see Marvin Vettori finished. You know, it's just hard to picture. I don't think we've even seen
Roman really hurt, Wheezy.
Yeah, well, no, we have. Dude, Roman almost died in round 1 of the Mavov fight, and he does not remember rounds 2 through 5. Rounds 2 through 5, Roman does not even remember them. You would have to watch, you'd have to sit him down next to the footage of the fight to prove that it happened to him because he doesn't remember it. I got to
rewatch that one, Wheezy. Like I confessed before, you guys, I was in the car, so I didn't do as full my due diligence as I usually do this week. I didn't watch that particular fight. I ran back the Kevin Holland finish and I ran back the first Marvin Vettori fight. I need to go back and watch the Nasruddin Imavov fight. I totally forgot about him getting hurt in the first round of that one.
Yeah. And he fought through it though. You know, that's the thing. He just went on autopilot for the next 20 minutes and spent a lot of time clinching up. And that's the thing here. Dolidze could find ways to win rounds by potentially getting a takedown, potentially finding a sweep on the mat and getting to a dominant position. He can hold Vettori up against the cage and win minutes that way. He can land the biggest strike in the round and win a moment that way that banks around. There's ways that I think that Roman can make this fight close and find moments that help him bank rounds, but I think Vettori's going to put more volume on him. I think he's going to be the better striker. I think he's going to be the better wrestler. And I think he's got the better cardio and the better strength of schedule and the better wins. So I got to go with Marvin Vettori here, but I can't lay the juice on him because he's almost on a 2-year layoff. He's coming off that long of a layoff. Activity is very important. And if that knee isn't kind of surgery ready, you know, what's that?
Some kind of surgery.
Yeah.
Don't know what it was, but he's coming off some surgery.
Yeah. So we're going to have to find out, man. You know, like there could be some ring rust here. He might not be the same fighter he was before the injury. There's no way to know that. But I think I'm going to have to leave this one alone because of that, because I think Dolidze can kind of make it close, even though I'm probably going to pick Marvin Vettori to win this fight by decision.
Yeah, I'm 1000% there with you, Weezy. I'm going to do some digging, you guys. I'm going to try and figure out what that injury was. I'm going to try and figure out what that surgery was. And then, like we did the last time, right? If we can find a timeline and go, what is it normal people to recover from this particular injury or this particular surgery? Maybe we can find an angle on that. Because if Marvin's full back 100% and, maybe Dolidze is getting a little old, I wouldn't mind sprinkling like the round 4, round 5 KO props for Marvin Vettori. Glenbot saying it was his arm, which that's interesting because if it's not the knee, I'm a little less worried about it. So that's good news in my opinion if it's the arm. But we'll see. We'll see. Rimdog says Marvin coming off the loss to Brendan Allen in the casino. I need that fight, man. I need that fight with all the beef between those two.
That didn't happen though.
They started to get into it and they got split up like right away. So nothing happened. And they were scheduled. That's the fight Marvin actually pulled out of.
Oh, shit. Okay. So maybe I didn't realize. I thought that they had I remember there was some footage of people fighting in a casino and Brendan Allen was like, that wasn't me, guys. Like, I don't know. I don't
see. I didn't hear that. I thought those two got into it, but they like split them up almost immediately.
See, I think somebody put some other footage out of like two guys who kind of looked like Dolidze and Al. Like one guy had long hair and one guy was short, dark hair. And it was just a casino fight. It wasn't two mixed martial artists or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Well,
I'll do some digging, you guys. We'll come back hopefully with a little bit more information. Weezy, my man. Whoa, pardon me. Thank you so much, my friend, for signing up for this long-ass podcast today, and somehow we managed to go way over time. I'm trying to cut the show down, you guys. We're trying to keep it under the 2-hour mark, get it closer to that 1 hour 30, 1 hour 40 mark, because this is way too long to be doing every single Monday night, but we did it, and we did it on the worst card the UFC has ever offered. So I hope you all are appreciative of our guest, Weezy, this week for bringing the numbers and bringing the humor on this kind of a grungy-ass card. My man, what can they do to support you? The floor is yours. Let the people know how they can help you out and where they can find more of your content.
Well, you can find me on X at MMA Weezy. You can find me on YouTube at Uncle Weezy. And you can find me on Odds Shopper, where I do all of my content now. Balls Deep Breakdowns, a 2-hour show I do every Wednesday for a full card breakdown. That's on Odds Shopper. Probability, which is my prop betting show where I use my over-under, my prop betting models, match it up with the stylistic reads that we do in Balls Deep Breakdowns to find the best plus EV bets of the week. If you go to Odds Shopper and you go to MMA and boxing bets and look for Uncle Weezy, you're going to find access to the best statistics, benchmarks, analytics, fight research, betting models, and exclusive content that you're going to find on the internet anywhere for only $25 a month. And if you use your code NEW20, you're going to get 20% off your first month's membership. Check me out over on OddsShopper. That's the absolute best way to support my work. Clint, thanks for having me on as a guest on the show again. It was a pleasure breaking down this dumpster fire of a card with you, and hopefully the spots that we pointed out wind up cashing, and we all enjoy watching these fights on Saturday.
My man, we go dumpster diving. We do it together. You'll love to see it. Thank you all so much for being here for the Die Hard MMA podcast, UFC Vegas 104 edition. We have one bet, ladies and gentlemen, locked in. That is our dog of the week. We are rocking with the zombie girl herself. And that's all I got for you right now. Priscilla Cachoeira plus 165. But we do have a couple of other chalky spots we kind of like on the card. There's some violence opportunities. Maybe we talk ourselves into a play on Sam Hughes and AJ Cunningham. That one's happening. The plus 500 on AJ Cunningham is happening, you guys. I'm a degenerate. I can't help myself. We'll see you all on Thursday for the Total Takedown, the undefeated post weigh-in show Friday. Be good. Kick some ass. Love you guys. Let's roll.